Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome to the Shakespeare Show. So for today, I thought that we would be going over some, just some interesting history stuff. Typical. Good. Hello, hoy, hi, hello, hi, holy lazy duck. Welcome in, welcome in. One of the things that is definitely I found this out just a few minutes ago while I was preparing for stream, and that is that I tried looking for it because I saved his stream, or rather his premiere thing that he was gonna have from GigaChad about something. It was like something that involved history, so and I mean and I think he either got clapped by it, like he literally got banned because of something he said. Hello, Devil EMS, welcome in, welcome in. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Like I said, I found out that apparently GigaChad either again got banned on YouTube because of something sussy he said. So currently in a constant state of homework. I mean, that's my life, right? Like that's me. Like I have to not only give homework, right, to my students, but also all of my deadlines and everything. That's why when I set my schedule, I was like it needs to be, more or less like these times when I know. Mm. Hi Cat, welcome in, welcome in. Random, but I have been watching Has Been Hotel and I like it. Have you ever seen it? No, I have not. It mentions Lilith, which is from Judaism or some forms. Yes. Yes, it's technically you're not supposed to say her name. But yes, she is often thought of as being like the first wife of Adam, but she wasn't willing to exist in the way that wives are supposed to exist, I guess, in one sense. So some people will focus on some scandalous stuff that some rabbis wrote. Why aren't you supposed to say her name? Because it's like invoking something evil, right? Like it's something that's like it's something that is uh something that was sinful, something that is, at least in that sense, right? Like you don't want to invoke her name because it's tied to this not the righteous wife, right? But also not a righteous person, right? That she was willing to offend, divine ordinance, etc. So there's that. And again, a lot of this, it's like how you don't say the Q word at a hospital, right? Right. I mean, among many other things, right? Like you don't want to say uh a lot of things, right? Like same thing, you don't want to say the B word, a word with a B in an airport while you're standing while you're right in front of TSA. You know what I mean? Like you just don't bring that stuff up. But that name has become that name is actually, it's interesting because that name Lilith is related to the word Layla, right? So there's already a name Layla, right? That's the Arabic pronunciation, but we also have it in Hebrew Layla, but it's Layla. It's usually Layla. And so when you yeah, so what Layla means is that Lila means night, right? So all of the negative attributes, right? The uncertainty of the night, blah blah blah. That's all, right? The weird stuff that happens in the nighttime because you can't, blah blah blah, right? That's what's sort of aligned with the name of Lilith as well. We have to say Baphizzes and yeah, usually I just say oh, fizzy salts, something. Yeah. So, oh, hello Phoenix Dragon, welcome in, welcome in. I'm glad that you could join us today. So like I said, for today, I was planning on talking about GigaChad, but I get GigaChad essentially got like clapped or something because his topic was like something, like tradition, quote unquote, right? So maybe he said something that just like crossed a line. I don't know what it could have been. I didn't watch it. I was gonna watch it like as it were live with all of you because I like to do that. Um, right, like on some things, right, especially things that are not necessarily my areas of expertise, I will pre-watch and like kind of at least get a sense of what I'm gonna talk about. But a lot of the stuff is like, I don't necessarily feel that I have to, you know, think of a whole bunch of different stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna pause the music for now, and then we can go to the first video that we have here. Let's see. So today we are going to be talking about Mexico, among other things. We're not just going to talk about Mexico. But one thing is like I want to talk about this one of these things because I think people don't really realize that this ever happened. But the because I don't know, it's Vox, so I don't know how explicit they get, and I don't want to be just like necessarily writing the mouse, right, like on the pause button, because of the fact that it shows something that influenced the bad side of World War II. I'll put it like that. So, but it's something that like a lot of people don't know about Mexican history in the United States. Like people, often think of Mexicans in the United States as being this like recent thing, but we know that is just not the case. So we will be going into that in just a little bit. But first, I did want to. Hi, Boy Meets Minnie. Welcome in. Welcome in. So let's see here. We're going to visit, again, we're going to look at Tijuana, right, which is my hometown. Again, just like a travel guide. Oh, God. And again, I am so... Oh, wait. Where is this going? Oh, yeah. And then we'll go to... Oh, right? I know, like... I love ace colors and like the color of the flag, and so that's why I've like wanted to get something that has that. Like I know, like, and again, not to just mention my throne, but like on throne, I don't know if I still have it, but I used to have like a bracelet there that I wanted because it's like it's like it's easier to find like rainbow stuff, right? Especially, but when you want to find something that's like ace, arrow, colors go hard, right? Exactly. But when you want to find something that's like specifically like for ace and arrow, right? That is very difficult to find. So anyway, we're going to transition to this.
Are investigating a horrific discovery. 7 bodies found inside a pickup truck near a Tijuana gas station.
We begin tonight with a travel warning for Tijuana in Baja California in the midst of spring break. U.S. officials say the concern comes over a spike in crime and kidnappings.
Like, okay, so I have to say, so Tijuanere, right, from Tijuana, they have been saying this about Tijuana since day one. Like every single time it's like, oh, it's so dangerous, it's so dangerous. Like on one hand, it is dangerous, right? It's not called the most dangerous city in the world for no reason, right? It didn't get that title just for fun. Right? Like I grew up, especially when it was even more dangerous than it is now in many respects. Like back then, I'm not even joking, like because sometimes my parents would get jobs on the US side of the border. Yeah, the stereotype, is very strong in SoCal, right? That it's like, oh, it's so dangerous, you shouldn't go. And it's like, most people are going to be fine, right? Like, unless you're going to do something really just that you shouldn't be doing anyway, anywhere, you should be fine, right? But like I do, like back then, I actually, and also, yes, if you'd like to support me in some way, besides, of course, becoming a subscriber and, paying for a subscription for a month, which is $4.99 on computer, on PC, and $5.99 on mobile. You can do so. But otherwise, you can go to my Linktree or to my Throne, where you could help sponsor a book for my research. So, yeah, like I grew up there, and I like even like when I was like younger, I spent a lot of time there because my grandparents lived there, right? And so and they lived in like literally a neighborhood that was like social housing, right? So this is again another aspect where like my own personal experience really informs this a lot. Like yes, there were massive problems. And yes, like when my parents did work in the United States, which is very common for people to work in the United States but live in, and they cross every single day. I've mentioned this before. But I had a cell phone, right? Like this was like, it wasn't my cell phone. It was like for emergencies only. And I kid you not, oh my goodness, thank you so much for the watch streak. Awesome, 3-stream streak. It was black and white. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, it was black and white. Like, it was like newspaper print looking, right? But like that, like the old numbers type of thing, right? Like calculator. Like the way how calculators look, that was the phone. Okay, this is how old this is, And like that was my only way to contact, my parents if necessary when they weren't at home, when they were at work.
Fox 5's Kasha Gregorczyk is live at the border in San Isidro to explain.
By the way, this music is not even Mexican music, but they always play it with like anything Latin America. They just, we're just going to play this because, Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, it's like the whole idea of like the Latin lover, right? It's like all of that. And not only that, but like that even goes into other things too, right? Like other stereotypes, like kind of, and it comes from the like Mediterranean blood thing, right? Isn't this? Yeah, it's like Caribbean, yeah, like Cuban stuff, Colombian, like, but all like coastal Caribbean music. But yes, like this one I think is particularly Cuban music, but still, like they just play and they're like, oh yeah, because like Latinx people are literally all the same, right? And no. Also, I will say this about San Diego, and I pause a lot. I do like this trolley. I wish that there was more public transit in general in California, in Southern California, because like for me to get to work takes like almost an hour, and I obviously am not going to say where I live in relation to the place that I work, but it shouldn't be like over an hour and most of it is stuck in traffic. So if there were public options that were like reasonable, like I know because I used to do a lot of free lesson nights. Ooh, oh my gosh, you like to dance? OMG, that's awesome. I used to have a friend who was also he was a Colombian Jewish person, and like when we we met in shul, right? We met in shul, so we met in synagogue, and he was like relatively secular, but like one of the things that we would do like on Shabbos, right? Because you can't like use your phone, you can't watch TV, right? Can't play video games. Is that like people would dance, right? With him in particular, because he actually knew how to dance. So yeah, no, it was funny. I mean, it was fun and funny too. Although the music does make me want to like. By the way, this is all new. I've never, like, when I went through this, it did not look like this at all. Because like after I moved there, I haven't like gone back usually if I do, I go in car, right? So even then, that border entrance is no longer the old one in San Isidro that was right next to the U.S. one is no longer there. It's now like way out almost by downtown, which in a way is better if you're not familiar with Tijuana and you're like a tourist. I get why they would build it to go downtown, because that's where most tourists go. But for me, like, I literally know by heart how to get to my house and like around Tijuana City. Just like, I don't need a map. I don't need GPS. I don't need Google Maps. Like, I know, it's one of those, like, it's so ingrained in my memory. But this was never like this. Like they didn't have no trees. They never had none of this. It was literally like you just walk up and it's just like pavement all the way up to the entrance of the of the stairwell that takes you across.
That is the border wall right there. That's how the actual border wall looks like here between US and Mexico. Right.
By the way, again, like I said before, the wall, this whole like fence wall, whatever you want to call it, has only been around since 1995. Like, I'm not even joking. I know, like, even my parents remember a time when they could just cross the border and they asked him a simple question. Are you American or Mexican? Right? Like, do you have U.S. citizenship or Mexican citizenship? That was the question. So that way they could register, like, oh, this many people with this citizenship, because people would work across all the time. And then they actually, in fact, I remember when my grandparents talked about this, but my parents also talked about this, that like at one point they actually told them, like, by the way, like in 2 months or whatever, like we're no longer going to do this anymore. So you're going to have to, like, decide what you're going to do. And like some people didn't really heed that warning. And then, issues arose. Conservatives will explode if they come here. I mean, yeah, like if they actually went if people actually went and spent time with Mexican people, like where like the average Mexican person lives and, all of that stuff. So many of the stereotypes would, be challenged. But will they do that? No, because, if they do go to Mexico, they go to like a tourist enclave, right? And it's
about to get real. About to enter Mexico.
And I mentioned this too, like in Israel, right? Like when they have to cross in the West Bank, and they have those checkpoints, like they have, like, they are literally these things. Like this looks exactly like a West Bank checkpoint.
So there is basically no guards checking or anything. So I guess you just enter Mexico.
Yeah, like before when you went through the turnstile, again, this just shows how like it's been a long time since I've done this, since I've had to cross by foot anyway, is they didn't even have this little office. It was there on the side of the main entrance of the main crossing into Mexico, but you walked past it. You didn't walk through it. Now you have to go through this little, like, the Instituto Nacional de Migración, the National Migration, Institute, where they like, check stuff.
So getting into Mexico.
Yeah, so like that never happened before. Like what you just saw right now, that might happen to you if you went in an airplane to Mexico. That never happened before. When I was growing up, that did not happen. You did not go through any offices. You did not go through any lines like that where you're like, oh, you need to check your luggage and you need a blah, blah. None of that happened. You just walked straight through. And if you had something to declare, then you had to go to a separate little ventanita, like a little window, right? And they just like opened it up and we're like, what do you want? It was like that.
Mexico is quite simple. They don't even check your passport. They don't check any documentation. You basically go straight through like a security. Just put your bag down through the machine, and you just walk out. No document check, no nothing.
So like they don't do a document check because one, they presume if you're coming from the United States, the United States has. This is part of why I think it's highly unfair. I mean, among other things, why NAFTA and whatever the TMEC or whatever it's called in English, because I know it in Spanish, Tratado México, Estados Unidos, Canada, TMEC, is that Canadians and Americans can travel to Mexico without a visa, but Mexicans cannot travel to either of those countries without visas. So, like, that's why, like, when people say, oh, free trade and blah, 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 it's like, Yeah, but people that want to just, yeah, fuck NAFTA. No, yeah, definitely for sure. Um, like uh, like they had no problem doing literally bending over backwards to let Israelis come in. But Mexicans, oh heaven forbid that, you know.
Make sure you have your documents to go back to the United States, and don't forget it from that side because they're not checking it here. So as you come out of the border, this is where you will most likely walk out of. This is most likely where you will walk out of from the border, and then you can come just down here and then just order the taxi or order the Uber. Uber is pretty cheap out here in Mexico, so I would recommend Uber is safe. Taxis can charge you a little bit more, but you can do the Uber, and it will take you to downtown Tijuana.
I mean, both Ubers and taxis are relatively, like, they're fine. Like, it's not, I don't know what he's, like, the only thing I can say about taxis is that, like, you can pay in cash, right? Like, if you exchanged a lot of currency, into pesos, like, then you can use cash. And they also will sometimes like haggle with you, but usually they have like a set price. Like if you're going to go to this general area, it's going to look, because actually the last time I was in Mexico, the taxi was less expensive than the Uber, right? Because it doesn't have surge pricing. So it's like, it really depends on what you're looking for. People act like they act like literally everybody is just, again, this goes back to the racialization, the stereotypes, right? Of visualizing everybody in Mexico, right? Mexican people as being like inherently criminal, right? Which is, racist as fuck, but that, yeah, exactly. Like when I was living in the Philippines, right? Like I would see other like people that would come visit that would go to the university there that I was working at the time. And like, oh my goodness, thank you so much, Punk Rose. Thank you so much for the subscription, a tier 1 subscription, 5 months. So good to see you, Punk Rose. I hope all is well. Yes, I did. I lived in Quezon City, which is like used to be it was the purpose-built capital city of the Philippines, but then they decided to just move it back to Manila. So it's like kind of like they built New Delhi, right? And then they're like, you know what? We're actually just gonna like move back to the old one, so to speak. But yeah, I lived right there, and so and I taught in that area. There's a lot of universities in that area. Near my ex who live in Paranaque. Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, like when I was there, I was doing a lot of research that was like related to the area. So, talking about Latin America, but also expanding that context to include like the Philippines, etc., right, and its history vis-a-vis Latin America. But yeah, like the same thing, like some people would even presume that I was Filipino, which, I literally lived in Little Manila when I lived in San Diego. So, like I was completely used to all, the culture for the most part, etc. And yeah, it literally, like what ended up happening is that people would literally be like, oh, like, how can we even trust like professors from their country, right? How can we even trust, even the scholarship? How can we trust it that it's not, all plagiarized or something? And I'm not joking. Like that academic racism runs really deep, really, really deep. Like they do not think that, like essentially they are like the pseudo archaeology types for like, oh, aliens had to build it because, BIPOC can't apparently. According to them, right? So yeah. Let's see here. I'm so glad I visited Mexico when I was 11. Showed me the United States is actively trying to dumpster Mexico and Mexicans. Yes, and I do want to go into like a historical thing that's literally, I almost want to say covered up, just because of how horrendous it is, and also because it's so horrendous that it literally inspired the Nazis. Like America did it against both, to my people in both senses, twice, right? Like the Nazis and the Americans. Like they both, you know what I mean? So it's something that's why, like, when besides like just history as such, right? Like why I got into genocide studies is because it's like the history of the world, right? Especially, with the colonial period, it's, and even beforehand, but especially afterwards, it's like you could not do it without, some aspect of genocide studies, because it's just like impossible on some level to really comprehend the magnitude of just everything that went on. It was nothing like the U.S. portrayed. Oh yeah, wonderful country. Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's perfect. It has a lot of problems, but a lot of those problems are because of capitalism, and particularly imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism. So yeah, because their Tagalog has a lot of Spanish influence. Yeah, and like I knew a lot of people that spoke Chabacano, which is like a Spanish Creole, so it's even more like Spanish. So, because like in Tagalog, you can say "Cómo está?" and that is like "Cómo estás?" Like you can see the resemblance, and things like that. And then like knife is cuchillo, right? Like, which is the same in Spanish, cuchillo. It's just spelled differently. Old capital city of the Philippines, right? Up until it was separated with independence. That's what caused it to become a separate, the East Indies, as they would have called them back then. I want to go to the Mexican Grand Prix. It's cheaper for the weekend versus the Austin one. Ooh, where do they have the Mexican Grand Prix? Like, I don't know why, but that makes me think of Tijuana, but I could be wrong, because I don't know, like, or is it San Felipe? Anyway, you can hear a lot of Spanish mixed with provincial, native Tagalog. Yeah, with Tagalog, and also especially with Chavacano. Like, if maybe later I'll put in like a video, like a just short, right, to sort of go over Chavacano so people can hear it. Mexico City at Circuito Hermanos Rodriguez. Oh, nice, awesome. Even their Taglish is like slammed together, English, Spanish, Tagalog. Oh yeah, for sure. Like a really big, like you could tell the fact that it was a U.S. colony, because like the things that they imported is just like some of that, like for example, like I'll just put it like this. They have McDonald's, right? All over the world, but the one in the Philippines, they don't give you fries, they give you rice. And they don't really, like, people buy fried chicken at McDonald's, right? And you can't get unlimited refills on your beverage, but you can get unlimited gravy. So, just so people know. It's 7,000 feet high compared to the other F1 tracks. They have to rework engine brake cooling. Yeah, well, brake cooling too, I would suppose. Wow, that's awesome. Oh yeah, because Mexico City is high up, so.
And so I did the Uber, I'm just waiting for it, and yeah, look at this. Mexico, first time.
Oh, this is the thing I mentioned that's kind of like the St. Louis arch. So this is Avenida Revolucion. This is like, when people think of Tijuana and they think of all the like tourist trap stuff, it's all on this street. Oh, yeah. So this is what is called downtown Tijuana. Again, in fact, when I was a lot younger, like not eligible to be able to drive younger, on this street, on La Revu, as people in Tijuana call it, there was a bank, right, that my mom had to go to. But I stayed in the car, right? Because like we parked and whatever. But then the police showed up because they essentially were like, you can't actually park there because it wasn't like the right time or whatever. Like it wasn't open parking yet. So they were like, you need to move the car. But I'm like 12, right? So now they've compelled a 12-year-old child to turn on the car. Right. And I couldn't tell my mom because I didn't have like a cell phone back. This was like before I became, right. So she's in the bank, right. She's doing whatever she needs to do. So now I'm driving. Like this is like literally like my way of learning how to drive. in the middle of a city is me driving around in circles in downtown Tijuana, just like so that same cop stops me again and tells me that he's like, yeah, that critical racing theory. Yes, exactly. I was taught CRT, brother, right there in Tijuana. Yeah. And like, then my mom was like, I couldn't find you, blah, 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 because the cop made me park and was like, like, you were driving fine, blah, 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 but you need to park because I realized that you're a child. And I'm like, yes, that's why I was like, can you please just wait? Like, please don't make me turn on this car. So yeah, then I, that's how I kind of learned how to drive in this area. Yeah.
This is the downtown, and this is much more safer than some of the other areas in Tijuana. So if you do come here with a family.
So by safer, they just mean it's much more touristy. Like everybody speaks English. There's cops all over the place. There's like visitor information booths. In my opinion, I know, right? Like, yeah, safer. Like for me, I don't like downtown. Like, I'm like, nah, I want to go to like, like where my grandparents used to live, like, or where my grandparents' house is, right? Or like where my house is, right? Or was. Like, there, this dude couldn't handle the old markets of Delhi. No, definitely not. I mean, like, could you imagine him like just walking like 10 feet in Lucknow? Like, imagine just like, or like in Varanasi. Like, imagine that. Oh, he could not handle Varanasi, that's for sure.
This would be the place, very typical, like a tourist place that you would walk around and with your family. So it's a little bit more safer side. In the morning, it was a little bit foggy, but now it's like.
Oh my gosh! In his description, it says, though dangerous, talking about Tijuana, still 2 million people exist here. What a weird way of talking about Mexican. We exist. I know. So bad.
I'm gonna now look for some breakfast.
This is so bad. Like, bruh, you need to calm yourself down.
A lot of people speak really good English out here. Like, it's
Also, he has leftist audio.
In the US that, a lot of people should go from here to work in the US and back and forth and consider bringing like Visa card or cash with you.
Yeah, he didn't do the music right. It needs to be lower. Okay, so let's see. He got an omelet with cheese. Okay, I'm not judging, okay? Like, hey, this is totally legit breakfast. Totally legit. Beans and some tortilla-looking stuff? What is that even, tortilla-looking stuff? Are they tortillas or not? Like... Oh my god. Oh my gosh, the highlight. So like, I'm gonna be like real, like, okay. There once was an event that happened here and they had a sign for it here, like one of these signs up here. And all I'm gonna say is like, that was one of those like, I am not cis nor het. I'll put it like that. Like, it was one of, like, literally in Mexico where people, US people think, oh, people don't even, LGBTQ plus people don't even exist, essentially. Like, it literally was because of the High lie that, like, one of those, like, things that happens in your mind where suddenly you realize, like, oh, that explains so much. Right? So, yeah. But it was one of these signs, and I just remember... I mean, it wasn't just because of the sign. Like, it wasn't like, oh, so it was like the thought process it began. Also, right here in Tijuana, you can go to casinos, but you miss Mexico right now. I know what you mean. Like, I miss a lot of stuff. Like, I miss Like everything. Like like literally the other day I was trying to find some aguas frescas, cuz like LA is very Mexican, right? Like super super Mexican. But it's not like Mexico. Like it's not. It's there's a lot of good stuff. That's great. But it's just not the same. There's just something missing. Well, actually there's a lot of things missing. But, it is what it is.
So I think I've walked quite a bit now in the downtown area. Now I'm going to go and check out some of the residential area of the city, away from the hub.
I know that you live in Europe. I know. You live in Germany, and there isn't like, Kleines Mexico, in Berlin or something. Like when I was in Europe, like, but I will say one thing. Uno de los lugares mejores de comida mexicana, Italy. I found it in Italy. I'm just gonna say that, like, literally one of the best ever, like in the world, like even including Mexico and California, Italy. But that's because he immigrated there. That's how I feel about India diaspora in the US. Oh yeah, I mean like that's the thing, right? Like that's why we should all have solidarity with one another, right? Because it's one united struggle, but also like we are all going through this. Right, being in diaspora, being colonized, being like there's nothing Mexican here. I mean, like again, like there might like usually you can find a single place in some places. Like if you're in a big city like Hamburg or Berlin, you might find one, but it's like really hard. But when I was in Rome, I found Maseca. Okay, Angles, like I found Maseca. Like, I'll put it like that. Like, I found it. I made sure I found it because I got to have mis tortillas, okay? If I don't have tortillas, like, there's a problem.
Hub of this, downtown, the shops and everything. Just see how the normal day-to-day life looks like for people that live here, so close to them.
Oh my gosh, this big old flag right here is, I know, like, I wonder if it's because of Catholics from Latin America visiting the Vatican. I mean, I think it might be a part of it, that like they might want to cater to people since like the largest group of Catholics is now the Latin America. But like some of it too is like people that are deciding to not immigrate to the United States because it's increasingly more dangerous to just exist in this country. As any colonized people, let alone, etc. And so some people have found it easier to assimilate or to partake in cultures such as in Italy. Some of it does have to do with some of that. The person I know, like, essentially, was an artist, right? And wanted to be in Rome, right? And went to study in Rome and then decided to stay, so... But this big flag here, like every day, I think it's at the like when the television starts, they always have the Mexican national anthem and this big flag, like this huge flag here, like waving on TV. And I always found it such a strange thing because it also happens on like the US radio stations. But it's whatever. It's just kind of a weird thing, like growing up with like the Mexican national anthem being performed like that, kind of like the American one. Like I was like, because like in school, and I don't know, Angles, if this was similar, if you experienced similar, but like we didn't really do that. Like that was not as big of a thing. But that could have been, just the school, or Tijuana, like, but I don't know. I never really got that whole like, oh, you need a, yeah. Let's see here. But yeah, it's huge. And when you're going to Tijuana, it's like this immense. I had a civil ceremony every Monday. Oh yeah, like once a week. Okay. We did have that at my school. Okay. In Mexico? You went to school in Mexico, Buffy? Or do you mean in the United States? No, in the States. Yeah, because like in America, it's like an everyday thing, right? Like every morning you stand up and you say the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you live in Texas, you say 2 Pledge of Allegiances. The Texas one as well. But yeah, like that's, I don't know, like the school I went to, I think it was because it was like we pledged allegiance to the Mexican flag and sang the anthem. Yeah, yeah. Like that's what would happen on the radio every morning, right? And also on TV, like when the TV started, right? Like before the like 6 o'clock news or whatever. But I always thought it was just kind of like a weird like thing. We don't say shit in the UK. Ain't nobody singing "God Save the King." Yeah, I mean, I think it was just my school, because my school, like the school I went to, I'm not even joking, had its own collection of like Soviet memorabilia. I'm not even joking. Like I really wanted to like, I really loved looking at the memorabilia, but I just remember that they were like very not big on the whole like nationalism thing in general. But I just remember they had this huge collection of Soviet memorabilia. So.
So life outside of Tijuana gets very quiet and very peaceful.
I mean, it's peaceful most of the time. Like the thing is that if you're gonna be where all the tourists are, right? People that are very, showing off the fact that they have money, right? In fact, there was this lady. This wasn't in Mexico. I forget where this was. I think it might have been in Costa Rica. But she had a clear purse, right? And you could see her passport, her wallet, like not even like, oh, for fashion's sake. But it, like you have to have awareness of where you are. That doesn't mean stereotyping everyone as being criminal, but it also means, not doing dumb stuff. Like it's not on the other people, the Mexicans or the other people that in the country you're visiting, like in India, etc. It's on you, right? Because so many things are, crimes of opportunity, right? Because again, like, yeah, these are how houses look in Tijuana. Like my grandparents' house looks kind of like this orange one here, except theirs is like a greenish color. And like down the street over here, we have an Oxxo, which is like a 7-Eleven, right? And like that's why like living up here was like, ooh, and it's on a hill. Because Tijuana is very hilly. That is. Like, yeah, everybody, I mean, like even back then, like having a dog is a big thing, but also having the rejas, like the metal stuff that goes on windows, I mean, that's just like standard. Like that's what everybody does. That's what we had. Some people, if they, like, usually people would do it in parts unless they, because again, usually when you buy a house in Mexico, you're buying a plot of land that then a house will be built upon, depending on the company. Like if it's an Infonavit house or whatever, right? Which is like one of the national like housing corporations. Yeah, lots of new construction. So like my grandparents' house was built through the like, state managed, right, corporation that builds houses at, at a rate where people can actually more or less afford it. And like, but then there are things too where like electricity. We didn't, like when we first moved in, I don't know if this is, and Engels can speak to this because he's from like the city, right? Not out like in Tijuana, but like we got a year off of not having to pay when we first bought the house. Like when I didn't buy it, I was tiny, I was a child. But when my parents bought the house, because they give you a year to save up, like, so that way you don't have to pay all of these bills all at once. Like we didn't have to pay for water or electricity the first year. But like if you want gas, right? Like Mexico doesn't, or at least not in Tijuana, you don't have gas going into the home. You have to buy like a big thing of gas, put it outside, connect it so that way, not sure about this. My mom never really talks to me about bills and stuff. Well, I mean, it's just like in my experience, I like in Tijuana, I noticed that the La CEF, right? Which is the Federal Electricity Commission, that it would do that to people if they were like Infonavit houses, because typically if you're going to buy an Infonavit house, it's, you know, you're on a lower end of the spectrum in terms of like income. So
So I asked somebody out here who lives in this area. So I asked, how much would a house cost if you were to buy one here in Tijuana? But the guy said, it depends on the zone, the location, just like any other city. Even in the U.S., it depends where you live in the city and the cost of the home. But what he told me is it can cost about 3 to 4 million pesos, which is like $150,000 if you were to convert it into dollars. So
screen. Is it not, that's weird. What is it doing? Okay, I think I should be working now.
I mean, it's a good deal if you're from the U.S. and you want to buy like a nice house here. Like, I mean, you look at that house.
This is literally what I was talking about yesterday. The reason why it's so expensive is because people will come from the United States and buy up property, and then it drives up the price of those things. Because $150,000 for a house is a lot of money. Like, that's still a lot of money. But in Tijuana, like, and Tijuana is one of the cities where like the minimum wage is a little bit higher than like the rest of the country generally. But that's in the formal economy, not in the informal economy. So, there's a lot of reasons why, like, that's a lot, right? Which is why often people will, as a family, purchase a home, not as, like, an individual, like here. And, like, many generations live in the home. But 150, that's a lot. Like, even when I remember, like, house prices back then, it was not that high. It was not 150. So again, because people are moving to Baja California, especially because it's so close to, it's right there, right next to SoCal, then that makes the prices drive up.
House up there looks pretty good. So if you can get that in 150,000, you can buy it, and it's great. But again, it depends on the zone, depends on the city. Tijuana doesn't have that great of a reputation, I guess. It always comes in the news, but
but who gives it that reputation, right? Like, certainly imperialist companies have no problem this actually was true. Like, even when I lived there, they showed like lots of evidence, and they made a story about it, but like it was never going to become a big story on the US side. They just mildly talked about it, that companies in Southern California, in order to be considered like, oh, like they did their duty and whatever when it came to waste, right, the waste of their companies, they would go into Tijuana and dump it there, right? Because it's like, oh, well, it's Mexico, right? It's Tijuana, right? Like, nobody's going to care if you do it here, right? And so that's why recently, right, because right now it's raining. I'll put it like that. It's been raining a lot in California. If you live here, you know what I'm talking about. A lot. And one of the things that happened is that all of this like trash that's been collecting in the Tijuana River over years is now being flushed out where it hadn't been before. And so much of it is literally from factories, from businesses, corporations in the United States that dumped it in Mexico, expecting to like never see the light of day again. So
yeah, I mean, if you do get, if you want to buy it, you might want to find it in a place where it's like peaceful and not too, that's not that bad of an area, I guess. So, and I also noticed like some of these neighborhoods have these like a private, almost like a security, these blocks here. So, which I guess keeps the neighborhoods safe.
Like, that is much more common in Tijuana, but like but again, like, yes, you can find gated neighborhoods wherever, but it's not as common in my experience. Like, if you go into like Guadalajara or Mexico City, these are not the most common type of house that they are in those private things. Like, most people's houses are just like out like this. They're not gated in that way.
And a lot of dogs, and a lot of people here have like California number plates. So I guess a lot of people from California I guess the people that are Mexican culture buy homes here and just kind of live here. Like, you know, I see these cars with
And that's why the prices of homes is way well above what Tijuaneres can afford.
U.S. California number plate all over the place here. So it looks like they are living here in, you know, in great numbers. Sun out here in Mexico is no joke, so you gotta come prepared with your hat. It's really hot out here. If you don't bring your hat, sunscreen, you're going to get burned.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, this is another thing too. People think that like Mexico has like no, I mean, first, when people think about how Mexicans live, they don't think we live in houses, right? They think we live in like dusty shacks in the middle of the desert, right? And we just like do cowboy stuff, like, you know, whatever. Which is not true. Like, we don't live like in the Three Amigos. But like, people also didn't realize that like we have parks. I remember that, like, oh, there are parks here. Like, yes. People like parks. I don't know. Like, is that so hard to imagine? Oh, look at the little pupper. Oh, so squuffy. Like, yeah, like there are some parts where like the roads aren't paved, but that's because like even my grandparents, right? When they bought their home, the street that it was on wasn't paved. They had to come together as a community first, right? Get to know each other, etc. Come together, pool money together from their earnings, and then, right, from their hard work, and then pay for it to be paved. Otherwise, it would have just remained a dirt road far longer than it otherwise would have been until the, you know, the state did it. Nice butt. Oh my gosh. Yeah, like this is one thing too, like my mom, she has such that like you know, like, oh, in the United States, you know, like they don't make houses out of real material, they make it all out of like wood. And I like casas de bloque, like with the cinder block. Like, I feel like this is kind of what people expect Mexico to look like. It's just slums, right? But
this place is quiet right now, at this point. I guess more people will show up once...
yeah, like, once all of this stuff opens, like, once, especially, like, if you were at the... Hello there, Ferret King. Welcome in, welcome in. We're just talking about my hometown, Tijuana.
The day starts to unfold.
Oh, that reminds me, Boy Meets Mini. There's this big market in Guadalajara. It's called Mercado... Oh, what is it called? It's like the largest in Latin America, and it's like... Oh, San Juan... San Juan de la Cruz. I forget what it's called, but it's like enormous. Like, I saw a video that showed a market in I think it was in I've been to Cancun and Tenochtitlan near Guadalajara. Nice. Oh, look at the little pupper. Oh, you know, you want to know what's another thing too that I've noticed that has changed like culturally? Most likely because of like US culture influence. But like growing up, nobody had beards. Like it was seen as like not a thing. Like you would always just see people clean shaven. You would maybe see mustaches. Like that was seen as acceptable. But like only now have I really well not now, but like in the past few years when I've gone back to Tijuana, have I seen people like with beards, right? Like that used to like never happen. People would always be clean shaven. Oh, yeah, there's a, just like everywhere else, there's a lot of like art walls. This is such a cool space, right? Yeah, like I love all the art, and I like that there's so many different kinds of art too, because like I have a painting up there that I've been working on, and it's abstract, right? But I still, however, hold myself up to this like standard that it needs to be like hyper realistic, which I know is impossible. But I like to like what I do actually do is either architecture, maps, or like more abstract painting. So oh, now he has no music. Now it's just quiet. I have a set of flags, like not the British flag though. I actually have some.
Now I'm walking to the cultural center.
I have some that were given to me by a friend who went to go visit Nepal, and also to Tibet as well. And so I have those flags, the kind that you will see in like Buddhist like stupas, etc.
Off to Tijuana, and I got a haircut.
Hey, hey, get it, that's a pretty good haircut, I would say.
They do a pretty good job of haircut up here in Mexico. So,
one thing I did hate growing up as a kid is when they would use the like straight razor to like do the back right here. Oh gosh, I hated that. And it literally had to do with like once it was literally like with this other, like a cousin of mine or something, or we might not technically be related, but he's a cousin somehow. And like literally like it would cause it to bleed, and I'm just like, no, I'm not, you're literally putting, and like they were saying like, oh, it's normal, this happens all the time. I'm like, no, you don't understand, it can't happen even once with me.
Got my sunscreen on and my hat on. This is very important out here.
Yeah, like a lot of this is much more recent because like some of it I don't recognize, but I'm sure that like the area generally itself I would recognize.
This seems like a more prominent and more developed.
I get way better haircuts in India for a third of the price. Oh yeah, oh, I know where this is. This used to be ING, that financial corporation before it went bust or whatever. And there's actually a French restaurant down this way, and like the lawyer's like club house. It's kind of weird calling it that, but it's like a place where like lawyers can hang out, I guess. Network and stuff. It's down here too. And then there's a really good taqueria like just over here. Hi KJ, thank you. I'm doing very well. I hope you're doing well as well.
Part of the city where you have more big stores.
Oh, Boy Meets Mini. Have you ever seen those videos of like people where like they go and what they do is like, oh, I did a $1 massage in India or whatever. Have you ever seen those?
And just kind of big open roads and kind of markets out here. One thing I did notice in the city is a huge presence of police everywhere.
Wait, did he say noise or police? I heard noise.
One thing I did notice in the city is a huge presence of police everywhere.
Yeah, and I avoid them. I don't really like travel vloggers, but because I sort of saw that like he was gonna go into like neighborhoods that are generally. I mean, he went to like the neighborhood that he was just like videoing in, where it had like the alleyway that wasn't paved. I'm like, I mean, I'm sure that's more what people think all of Mexico looks like, but it's just like, it's more of a, but yeah, I don't usually look at travel vloggers unless they're about food. Like if they're food travel stuff, I will look at that like for anywhere, mainly because if I know that they have like a similar like palate to me, I guess, then I know like, oh yeah, if you go eat like biryani whatever blah 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 here, then I know, or flautas at this restaurant, at least I know like, okay, yeah, like. Okay, so this is El Secut, famous. It's a museum. It's also where you can watch those like IMAX 3D movies. Once, because Caesar salad comes from Tijuana, from the Caesar Hotel, by an Italian immigrant to Mexico called Cesar Giardini. I believe that was his name. I could be wrong about the surname, but I know his first name was Cesare or Cesar. And that's where the salad first started, because and essentially the way how it came about was people wanted a salad, right? Like, because it was supposed to be like a fancy schmancy restaurant. But he didn't have any of the like traditional stuff left over. So he took what kind of he had, like sardines. This is why you have to be careful when you get Caesar dressing, because some people don't like sardines, etc. Among other things, and then created the dressing. Had the cheese and the lettuce, etc. And like invented it there. Once they had an event here to the Guinness Book of World Records thing, to eat the largest Caesar salad in the world, and I partook in that. That's literally the only cool thing about me, is once I ate a really big salad. I saw one British dude title his 10 most dangerous food in Tamil Nadu, and I'm like, too spicy for you? Oh yeah. Like, it's funny because when I see them do that, like in Mexico too, it's always because, oh, it's so spicy. And it's like, bro, like, I know people that like do not even like spicy food, and they will eat that salsa like fine. Let's see. Oh yes, we can look at a pirate ship. Okay. Hello, Swims with Whales. Welcome in. Do we want to look at a street food tour then? Or do we want to look at like the sussy things that, fascists are doing along the border? We can do either one. Oh, thank you so much for redeeming a random fact. So, random fact. Give me a random fact of Tijuana. Okay. When Tijuana was founded, it was there's a big dispute about where the name comes from, right? Some people say that it was referencing to the river, but where did the river get its name, etc., etc. And essentially what has been understood over, a cumulative history is that there was a ranch that was called Rancho de la Tía Juana, right, that owned land that abutted what is now La Revolucion, like kind of where the city is now. And during Prohibition, when the town really began to develop because of that, they began to be on the land of that ranch. And so you essentially start to get Tijuana, like it became a portmanteau. And so that's essentially how we get the name of Tijuana. Yeah. So there's a random fact about that. It came from the land being part of the Tía Juana Ranch, like Tía Juana's land, and that's how the name came to be. Food tour? Okay, sounds good. We'll do Tijuana because I think it's like where
I'm to the stage where I'm feeling a little top heavy right now, or a little taco heavy. In part one, which was earlier this same day, we crossed the border from San Diego to Tijuana on foot and immediately got started.
Wait, hold up.
This is the first ever land crossing immediate to a country to a straight street food tour. First ever for me.
See, like, this is actually Mexican music. Like, he actually, like, this is why, like, this dude is from, well, now he lives in Thailand, but I think he's from SoCal as well. So, like, he actually, like, well, the other guy, I don't know, I think he's from SoCal too, but, like, he actually, like, has spent time, like, touring, like, Mexico, also knows a lot of Mexican people. So, hi, Carrie Lynn. Oh, awesome. It's so welcome in. And yes, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love, like, that's my hometown, Tijuana. So, like, one thing I like about Tijuana, and I know people from Mexico City, you can be mad at me all you want. But I will say this: the tacos al pastor that we have, right? Tacos al pastor, the red ones, those are the best ones. Okay, you guys can be upset at that, but they just are. Okay, this is just like completely objective.
Are we going in? Going in. Double tortilla. It's been way too long without a taco like this dripping out. Like.
Oh no, angles. Oh my gosh. No, angles know that I like the tradicional. So give me, I mean, yeah, totally. Like, this is why I'm saying, like, if I were to ever, I mean, I don't have like the largest community, but say I were to get large enough to where having a Shakespeare con could happen and would actually have people show up, I would love it to literally be a carne asada. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, we would have 2 grills, one for just like vegetarian vegan food and then one for like meat and stuff, to be, but we would be having a whole bunch of tacos. Honestly, would love some. And there are places even here in SoCal that do fusion food. You also can find there's a place I don't know angles. It's in it's by the southern entrance, like by the Palacio Castillo de Chapultepec. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's like Palacio something. Palacio, like, I can't remember, but it's like something palace in English, and it's like they do fusion Indian Mexican food. I think they do like chicken tacos, like that's what comes to mind, but I could be wrong.
Smoke it a little more. Oh, here we go. We're starting this adventure, insane Mexican street food tour. We literally.
I've had tacos made with masala chicken. Ooh, that sounds good. Butter chicken burritos. Oh, that sounds good too. Have y'all ever had a sushi burritos?
Literally just parked in this lot here. This is still San Diego?
Yep, that's Tijuana, those hills, and there is the wall.
Walking our suitcases across the border into Mexico.
All right.
I've been noticing way more similarities recently with especially using tamarind. Oh, in Mexican cuisine? Oh yeah, we love tamarindo. Like, I remember telling people that I, like, back in Mexico, like, that tamarindo isn't like native to the Americas, right? And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, it was like one of those things where it's like people presume it's from the New World for whatever reason, the so-called New World. Like the way how people think that like pork was already here or beef was already here. Cause I've seen this, and I don't know, like like those like taco stands where they have like Goku, right? Like Super Saiyan, but it's like, tacos, tacos el paisa or whatever, like those places. Like, I don't even know why I brought that up, but anyway, those places. Okay, so that's one point. Second point, no, but like, they also have pictures of like people, like indigenous people in the past, right? Like eating tacos, and I'm like, those tacos did not exist as we know them back then, because we didn't have beef, we didn't have pork, we didn't have, goat, etc. But fish tacos are something that pre-existed, but not the way how we think of fish tacos, right? One of these days we should do a microfinance debunking day. Ooh, if you have a good video, because so currently my schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, similar times. I put it in the streaming schedule on my Discord. But if you want, you can always. Thank you so much for lurking, Boy Meets Mini. You can always leave a link to something there. I've been putting my own stuff for us to look at and just adding it to this huge what's it called, playlist of stuff that we might look at, might not. kind of what we think of as Chinese food is Western food in China. Yeah, right. And in fact, I remember the fact that they have restaurants that sell westernized, right, Western Chinese food in. Oh yeah, I would be totally down with doing that. In fact, I have my like investment banking textbooks up there, so, and my other stuff, because I've mentioned before that like economic history is important to my research. And like, again, if people want to support that research, you can always go to my throne and help sponsor a book.
Good morning, Jeffrey. We meet again. This time we're on the border of California. We're walking across the border and we are going to take you.
So do you see how like this looks different even from the other dude? Like, this was 3 years ago. That dude was like a couple of months ago. But like even this, like it's been changed since then too.
We're going to go on, what would it be called? An insane
taco tour for starters.
Ultimate insane taco tour of Tijuana, Mexico. We're with Jeffrey, we're with the whole LA crew. Very hungry right now. And we're going to show you all of the tacos and everything that we do in Tijuana in this video. Success, we have made it. Welcome to Tijuana, Mexico. I've been waiting so long to visit. I love Mexico. So happy to be here, so happy to start eating. Jeffrey was just explaining to me that one.
So yeah, I mean, I would be happy to start eating too. Like, I wish there was a way for like, I don't know, like, you know, if Elon didn't want me to just like not hate him, you know, quote unquote, or, you know, I'm obviously just joking, but, you know, if he didn't want me to like dislike him, he could actually come up with something good, like making the food that you see on screen like appear so you can try it in person. But, you know, I don't know.
One of the best things about Tijuana is
I mean, if he's the richest capitalist and also so innovative, then
it brings together people from all over Mexico. So you'll find Mexican street food from all over Mexico in Tijuana.
This is true. This is 1000% true. Mexico City also. Who are we watching again? GigaChad? Oh, no. I went over this in the beginning. We were going to watch GigaChad. However, I think his channel got clapped. I think he got banned off YouTube because he was going to do some like stream about like essentially right-wing stuff. And I literally have been looking for his channel and I just cannot find him. Like, I've checked so many different ways, titles of his videos, they're all gone. I can't even find the channel. So that's why I'm thinking that he got clapped.
Congregated in Tijuana, and that's why
So like Tijuana and Mexico City has an element is like this as well, because you have people migrating there, you know, internally from the rest of the country. Tijuana also has a lot of other foods from other countries as well. Like there's a lot of Haitian immigrants because and it's actually quite a sad story. Because like this is what, again, it's not a perfect place, right? Like there is a lot of discrimination, especially like anti-black racism that comes with this. But in Tijuana, you will meet people who like they can't get into the United States, right, for whatever reason, and you know they can't go all the way back home, so they will instead stay in Tijuana and try to make it there, right? That's kind of what happens. And so one of those communities is the Haitian community that has been trying to, you know, be allowed into the United States because they're refugees from, right, all of the stuff. But the United States doesn't consider them. Like, this is the problem with, like, immigration in general, is that, and in fact, there's actually a Tim Pool video that I saw on someone else's stream that was just so bad. But it actually fits in with talking about the border, like how creating new categories of people somehow is used to justify not seeing us all as refugees or being treated equally, right? Etc., among many other things. And so the Haitian community is a perfect example of that, where they are not allowed to go into the United States, regardless of whether they do it the right way or not. And even though they're being imperialized and in many ways neo-colonized by the United States. And so a big community has started in Tijuana, and because of that, like, Haitian food is now, you know, available in Tijuana, right? Where that wasn't really there before. Same thing with like I mean, that's just one example, but there are also like Chinese immigration, which historically has also been tied to Baja California. There actually was already a historical Chinese community that was essentially forced to move to Baja California after the Chinese Exclusion Act. They essentially got deported, and to avoid being, forcefully repatriated, as they might say, a lot of people moved to Mexicali and started a Chinese community there that still to this day exists there. But there's also, like in my neighborhood, there was a Chinese restaurant owned by Chinese immigrants to Mexico. And I remember my friend again, who grew up in SoCal, never really went to Mexico, mainly because his dad can't go to Mexico, because I won't get into why, but I think you can imagine why that might be. So like his family would never go, but he came to hang out with us for like the weekend, to come over to my house. And we went to this restaurant, and like when he saw the Chinese, the Mexican Chinese people right there at the restaurant, he felt like he started speaking to them in English. And like the girl that was like I guess like the daughter of the of the owners was like, ¿Qué? ¿Qué me estás diciendo? Like literally just like again, because the frame of reference for him was just shattered in that moment, because again, there's that association that people have. And like seeing that growing up is another thing, right, which also added a lot of questions, like why do people assume these things, right? Because I had that specific experience where someone was like, I cannot imagine that Chinese people can live in one another country like Mexico, and two, speak that language, right? Like speak Spanish, right? It's just like
Food scene is so incredibly good. Buenos dias. Buenos dias. Tijuana, Jeffrey. Through the wall. We packed into the van. We are on our way immediately to the first taco place.
Thank you so much, Carrie Lynn, for lurking.
No.
We just pulled into the first place, and unfortunately they are closed. They're sold out already, but that's okay because we have...
So this is something that does happen quite a lot if you don't make it there to certain places in time, because they are like mom and pop places. Hi, Nabil, welcome in. It's so good to see you. Welcome in. Right back, you're gonna get some food. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I know this kind of like makes you hungry. I'm gonna pin this in case people want. You don't obviously, no one's compelled to, but if you'd like to help me in some way, you can always go to my throne. Again, there are books there. There are other things there that you can also help me with, but for research purposes, right? Like, if people would like to help, again, there are things on there that would be of great help, especially the book that's on there right now. So with that being said,
a lot of other places to go, and then tomorrow early morning when they're open again, we're gonna...
Oh yeah. So if a place runs out, that literally means that they're out of the food. Like they ran out of the food. So like when my grandmother, when she would make tamales, right, she would make like, let's say 2 big steamer pots full. And there actually once was a time where, and she would set up un puesto. She would be sitting outside, and people would come up and I'm obviously gonna not say names, but Shakespeare's grandmother, right? Can I have 2 dozen tamales, right? Because it's usually sold by the dozen. And you mean there's no back storage where everything is also back with noodles? Awesome. Yes, noodles. That reminds me, I was planning to make some like a shoyu udon. But yeah, like, well, it's like because it's sold just the amount that they need, right? It's kind of like, this is where I think like where a lot of principles of even like socialism, right? Like this is where analysis and critique could come in, right? It's like they could keep making more, right? They could in order to sell, but instead they would prefer to have it a manageable quantity and have it have that like homemade quality, right? And so because of that, yes, they run out, but then the like loyalty that they build up, right? The rapport that they build up with their customers is far greater than simply selling to sell as much as possible. I don't think this guy is as egregious as the other. Yeah, no, for sure. But sometimes I like to see the content created by locals rather than a foreigner pulling up. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to do this one because like the other one was kind of like it was someone from America, but they were kind of like, oh, I mean, like the title is literally it's the most dangerous city in the world, which I'm like, I know, I grew up in that city. I know that it's the most dangerous city in the world. It's people love to bring that up, in fact, but it doesn't like define, where I grew up, right? That's more like something that has been like superimposed upon it. I don't mean to oh no, I didn't feel you were undermining. I totally took it as like constructive, like, yeah, for sure. Like that's why I like it when he is that more dangerous than cities. It's the most dangerous city in the world. Like period. Like just in every scale. And it was more dangerous before. Like at one point, the way how like I remember the news talking about it. And that was that, oh, it's the most dangerous place outside of an active war zone. Whatever that means. But again, it's this idea that's kind of like people like propagandistically will play up that violence, right? Because they want people on the other side of the border wall, right, to seem criminal, to seem bad, to seem right. It's an ideological thing. Whether or not it's that dangerous is besides the point. It's a way to then characterize all of the people that live there, right? Because it's not like most people are committing crimes. It's not like most people are, et cetera, et cetera. People are just trying to live their lives. And so that's why I've always had an issue with that title, right? Like, sure, fine, right? That's where I grew up. That's what it's called, fine. Or that's the title it's been given. But it's also a very beautiful city. It's a city with many different peoples that have come together to make, something that is unique, right? Of many different, races, ethnicities, nationalities, all together, and sort of disproving the idea that like it can only happen in, the imperialist world, right? Not in the imperialized world. So
include it, so that will actually be the final of this video.
Oh, so this place right here, Tacos El Gordo, they're really famous. Like they have places in San Diego. And I think they also opened up places in Las Vegas. So like this is a story of a company that's from Tijuana that then expanded into the United States due to the demand because their tacos are really, really good. In particular, their tacos al pastor. And this is why I was just like joking earlier about like, I only like the red kind. They make the red al pastor, which is like they put extra spices, extra chiles. Some chiles are just for coloring. So in this case, that's what it is. They make it red. But yes, I don't mean to undermine your content. Again, thank you. I appreciate your constructive criticism, though. I just wish these people would place more a highlight on the locals rather than themselves. Oh, 1,000%. That's why, like, if I could live stream when I go visit my family, I would. Like, if I could, right? Like, if I had a way to do it, but it's just like, I just can't.
Take a chili and they stuff it full of pork chicharron and sauce and then chop it up into a taco. Reminds me of the one you were talking about from Sonora.
The Marlin.
Tijuana version of that.
Is that where we're going right now?
Right now, brother. Right now.
Thank you. So first place we are stopping is Tacos Mike.
One thing I will say though that I like about Mark Wiens is that he goes to like where locals go eat, right? That's a really important thing. Because if I saw someone just eating at places on, like that guy in the other video where he went to go eat breakfast and he had like an omelet. Like, sure, yeah, Mexican people eat omelets, right? We usually call them tortas de huevo. But yeah, and another thing too is that he doesn't live in the United States. He lives in Thailand. Like that's where his wife is from, I want to say. So,
Oh man, one of the classic indicators of a good taco stand is it's right next to an auto mechanic.
So normally you come here,
Yes.
and they have different kind of tacos, and you choose the flavor you want.
Okay.
And then you.
Oh, so this is like guisados.
Yeah.
Guisados from Mexico.
Guisados from Mexico.
Mexico City.
so tacos de guisado means like this is like its own separate. So there's actually a show called The Taco Chronicles. It's on Netflix. I don't have Netflix right now, so because it's expensive. But one of the things that they talk about is how there are different categories of tacos, right? And they usually are by way of the protein that goes into them. Guisado is kind of like a everything else, right? It's like they can make it of many things, like even eggs and hot dog pieces, right? Like they cut up the hot dog and they mix it with egg and put some chile on it, and that's a taco de guisado. The reason why they're called that is because they're made in these little like pots, right? That are sort of to like cook them for long periods of time so that way everything soaks up that flavor, right? And so that is a very like Mexico City thing, but they're available all over the place. Like it's not only Mexico City.
He's gonna make it.
Gracias.
Almost a la carte. I mean, yeah, typically they're always a la carte, but that way the way how that is that like they already make all of these different ones. Like it's stuff that's not like typical, right? Like like when you go to a Mexican restaurant and you have like carne asada tacos, barbacoa tacos, right? All that stuff. Those are separate from tacos de guisado. Like these are kind of like dishes, right? That they kind of put in a tortilla, right? To make it a taco, kind of like that. And they can vary depending on where you are and which restaurant you go to. One thing that pisses me off is when white people go to POC areas for these vlogs, predominantly poor places, and wear like fucking Gucci's and designer shit. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I don't get it personally. Like, I mean, for me, like when traveling, I am always of the opinion that like you want to engage with the culture and not be talking, well, this is in general. Like I am trying to experience the culture and be accepting of it. So that means that, I wouldn't do something like that. Right? Instead, it's like to actually get to know the people where they're at. And to, because sometimes that, where they're very in designer stuff or where they come off as really touristy, right? Like where it's very performative, I guess, can come off as like they're almost exoticizing, or they are exoticizing, right? Who and what they're talking about. So yes, they kind of act surprised when we cook basic things for them and they talk down. Yes, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, they talk down to people. And then the worst thing is that a lot of these people then steal recipes and then they're like, oh, look, I discovered how to make this thing. This happens quite a lot, actually, in the imperialized world. When you're doing this kind of stuff, dressing up accordingly is a way to not piss her. Right. I mean, you want to be just like a regular person, so to speak, right? So.
Muchas gracias.
That's the bomb.
Oh man, he works so incredibly fast. He's just like flying, and he literally like flicks the rice and beans onto your tortilla. Then you get to choose. It's a choice. There's like maybe a dozen or at least 10 different types of tacos that you can order. The guisado, which is like the different varieties of stewed and cooked meats. But the main thing that we came to eat is the taco de chile relleno, which is a stuffed chili.
And this baby, you want to do the Milanesa beef? It's crazy, delicious, fresh.
We're just all standing around just tearing into massive tacos. Look at the size of that.
Oh, welcome in, Carla. It's good to see you.
Oh, it's just so much goodness in the tortilla, a double tortilla. It's just a crowd of people just standing around, just scarfing down like the juiciest looking tacos. Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's chicharron on top. It's like salsa soaked pigskin, fried pigskin, and the chile poblano, it just like bursts with cheese. It's been way too long without a taco like this. I can't even.
Yes, definitely. Two base streamers, Carla and Nabil, both of you. And good looking Chaco, definitely. So like if I were to do this, right, like one thing I like to do, because I grew up here, there's a lot of good seafood places, and I like to get tostadas. There's one place that's like OG, like super like locals only type of place, but it's so good. Like literally, this is like, they have sea urchin tostadas because it's like local, right? It's like a food that locals eat. It's not like how like in the United States, like it's really expensive. It's like there it's because it's like a fisherman's town, right? It's dependent on the sea for most of its food. And so like when I had those tostadas, I was like, and they have all of these salsas that they all make themselves, and it's run by, not even joking, like a little grandmother, and it's just like she rules that entire space. Like, just, it's amazing.
I'm not finding words right now to express myself. That's just insane. And another thing is that the best tacos are just standing. Like, you never want to be sitting when you're eating a taco. The best way is standing on the street. In fact, there's no other way. I'm gonna add on a little more salsa.
Oh my gosh, like I literally just made some salsa that looks just like that yesterday.
And I love how the chili, the stem is still on, so you've got a little handle. That tells you that you've made it to the end of the taco. Which is also a very sad moment. The only happy thing, well, the happy thing is that we have a lot more tacos to eat. To think and to believe that we just walked across the border for something so beautiful. Tacos, Mike. What a stall, what a taco to begin with. That was incredibly delicious.
All right, let's walk to the...
I wish I could handle more spicy. I can only go herbal. Well, I mean, if you can, like, if you are, it's possible, because I also know some people have, like, gastrointestinal issues, reasons why they can't eat spicy, but if that's not necessarily the reason, one way of doing that is by, exposure over time, like that's how, again, a friend of mine who literally could not handle any spice, growing up, got to the point where they could pretty much eat anything that wasn't like known to be like super spicy, right? Like they could eat like, stuff with chiles and stuff with it in it. But it would like, it took years. I'll be honest with you. I'm working on it, I promise. Yeah. Like it's always just like this is why, again, like when I make food myself, I don't put salsa on it for you, right? Like I will be like, oh, if you want salsa, you can choose to put it on, however much you know that you can handle or whatever, because I've like growing up, that was always such a thing as well. Like, whether or not people that I knew, wanted salsa or anything, because a lot of places they will just put the salsa on and it's like, well, you have to eat it regardless. But like my family was always much more like cognizant of being more accommodating, because like for Shabbat too, like you don't want someone who's like, eats a lot of spicy food, or pardon me, someone who never eats spicy food to suddenly eat something and it's really hot and, it doesn't, doesn't go right.
Next one.
I just got my mouth juices flowing. Okay, we're walking on to the next stall. It's gonna be we're gonna eat a mix of different foods, but I know it's gonna be mostly tacos today, and zero complaints from me.
Tacos Ruben, legendary. The owner is here.
Oh my gosh, I wanted to go to this place the last time I was in Tijuana, because I had something, I forget what I had to do, but I had to go to the university, UABC, which is funny because like when I was living here, when I was still living in Tijuana, I legit wanted to be like a doctor, like a medical doctor. And I'm so glad that I didn't try to become one because it's actually not a good idea. But that was one of the schools that I wanted to go to was UABC, the Autonomous University of Baja California, because it was like close to my grandparents' house, more or less. I mean, in the sense of it's in the eastern part of the city, you know, but like I had to go there for, I think it was for like, I want to say it was for an archival reason, but I can't remember actually. Anyway, I just remember I had to go there, or maybe I decided to go there. I don't know. But like I wanted to go here, but it was still closed because I got into Tijuana way too early.
He's in the house. You can see
Which is good if you want to avoid traffic. It's bad if you want to eat places that only open at like 11 a.m. So
most taco sauce you've ever seen in your whole life.
Hola! Hola! It's actually a taco truck, a van. But step into this awning, step into the tent section here. Salsas of every single kind you can imagine just lined up. It takes up, that's actually an entire...
So like right here, it's like salsa madre, so calabaza. So this means like courgette or zucchini, right? Or pumpkin. This one, guayaba, that means it has guava in it, right? So like all of these salsas in these jars are ones that are made by the owners of the truck, by the ladies that run the truck. I've tried the salsa Pekin, and that one is really spicy, but really, really good. Or the way how they make it, it comes out really spicy, but that's because they put like full little chili pods in it, and the chili pods are already tiny, but they put them in there. Oh yeah, for sure. Like all of this is, I miss being able to eat spicy food. Enjoy it for me, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Buffy. I hope this isn't too much. Yeah, no, like, I mean, I myself, like, there are, like, it's one of those things where, I totally get that. So, but no, it's fine. Okay. And right here you see tamarindo.
Truck length, an entire truck length of salsas.
Dylan, it's like Mika. We need your guys' help. Can you count the number of bottles while we eat a taco? And tell us how many bottles? Count. 55. 40, 55. 55. Imagine if you had one sauce per taco.
Oh my gosh, 50, that's a lot of salsas. Now, I'm saying that as someone who has a lot of salsas as well. Like when that song came out, Formation, right, by Beyonce, when she says, I got hot sauce in my bag, I'm like, that was literally my grandfather, like, 20 years ago. Like, legit, like, taking out hot sauce out of his bag. But he had, like, multiple, right? And that's, like, me, too. Like, I have multiple hot sauces in my bag. So, like, I actually have a memory of us going to Tijuana, like, when my grandparents, when we were in LA, and my grandfather legit opening up a bottle of Tapatio and drinking it. He's like, I'm thirsty, drinking hot sauce. Like, just...
You'd have to come here for a week.
Which tacos are we ordering here?
Marlin.
Okay, tacos de Marlin. And then, so outside the food van, they're lighting up the charcoal now to grill up the Marlin for us. It is the Marlin, right? Wrapped into like little like...
This is a Marlin.
Look at this.
No, that's a shrimp.
I smell shrimp.
That's the mix they use for the shrimp tacos.
Ah, okay.
They're almost the same.
Okay.
They're the same style, but those are Marlin and those are shrimp.
Oh, me encanta, me encanta.
Me encanta también.
Deja de hacerlo un poquito y ya que estén, el queso hace burbujas y haces un video.
He's gonna grill those up until the cheese is melting
Make a bubble?
and making bubbling out. Now they're like...
And all this rolls down up.
And
It's amazing.
Okay.
Look at the cheese.
And they are starting to smell incredible now. The smoke coming off of them.
So the last time that I was hanging out with my mom, I legit food porn. I mean, I decided that it would be nice to, because we were like, we were gonna watch GigaChad, but apparently GigaChad got banned or got clapped on YouTube, because he was gonna do some like premiere of some like really right wing stuff. So GigaChad is now we have the old archive of GigaChad. We knew him well. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him. Or rather, alas, poor GigaChad, I knew him, Horatio. You know all the tacos by Munchies? Yes, I actually have some of the Munchies things here on this playlist. It's a great series of videos on... Yes, yeah. I have some of them on here. I went to the Caribbean once, and some guy next to me at dinner was like, I can handle the hottest sauce you got. And when I was leaving, he was being, oh my gosh, on a stretcher. Oh my gosh. Imagine being gurneyed out because oh yeah. Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, once, my mom made some carne con chile. Or chile con carne, however, chile con carne. And all I'm going to say is, it was using these like black peppers, like they're literally like the color black, and it's like they were like literally like touching them, I swear, was like touching one of the reactors of Chernobyl, right? And yeah, like we had to be very clear that, like, by the way, if you eat this, just know that you might show up on like radiation detection. Oh, see you later. Thank you so much, Engels. GigaChad it's a great series on, yeah, for sure. GigaChad is boring, only you make it fun. Oh, that's so sweet. I appreciate that. I mean, I truly, want to make sure that people understand that, like, I really appreciate each and every one of you. Like, sometimes I get like all anxious. Like, what if like no one ever shows up? Like, what if I do something and it's like, oh my gosh, it's but. But then I come on and I get to see very wonderful people and get to have our conversations, and I just feel so much better. Rare YouTube dub, yeah, for sure. I mean, gotta make the drive home. We'll be back. Okay, Nabil, see you soon. I've shown up 3 times in a row. Sometimes therapy doesn't even get that treatment. Well, yeah. If we were to listen to him alone, it would be so bad. I mean, like his earlier stuff was like fine, but like once you started to get really sussy, I'm just like, I don't know. Like, it got to that point where I'm just like, I don't even know if I really want to even look at his content anymore. But I saw that he was going to have a premiere of something, and I'm like, oh, we'll look at it, Then it's like, he got clapped, and I'm like, okay, so he probably did,
Cheese is starting to melt inside and just like coat everything in melted, oozy, liquid, bubbling cheese.
Oh yeah, what I was going to say is, the last time I was hanging out with my mom, we actually got one of these things. I don't exactly remember what it is, but they called it like and they did have an English thing on the box, but I don't think it was for this. It just happened to be in a box.
And just like char into grilled perfection.
Ready? I pick it up the toothpick.
My anticipation is just getting stronger and growing by the second. Bubbles of cheese, and that's not even the full process. She's going to then take it into the kitchen, into the food kitchen, and then prepare them further. So after they're grilled, they go into the kitchen, into the van. She opens them up, just opens up the crevice.
This is shredded cabbage.
One thing I will say is, like, with a lot of foods around the world, right? The color of even very simple ingredients, even the most simple, like tomatoes, onions, cabbage, it's just like never ceases to amaze me how beautiful, right? Like, even something that people would regard as, like, in many ways, like, some people will say like street food is beneath them, right? And it's like, look at the kind of beauty that's sort of showcasing itself, right, through all of that. honestly, they probably eat healthier than Americans by the sole fact that I see more than 3 colors on the food. Oh my god.
Oh, and now sauce.
This is short rib with avocado, and this is short rib with chipotle.
Ah.
This is a spicy, a very good taste.
That's sour cream.
Yeah.
Sour cream.
Okay, careful.
Oh my gosh.
Which one is the spiciest? This is the one. Habanero?
Yeah. You want to put
Okay, yes, sure.
Francisco?
Yeah, gracias.
Oh my
You
gosh,
can choose from all
habanero.
55 different salsas. The spiciest salsa they have is the habanero. It's like a little, just perfect roll.
I legit am trying to grow habaneros in my little like space that I have as a back garden. Because like the last time I grew chiles, I grew like chiles tailandeses or Thai chilies, and they came out so well. But I like want to grow habaneros because in Mexico they don't usually sell them orange, they sell them green, and the green ones have like a completely different flavor. I mean, at least to me, like I can taste the difference. I guess I'll put it like that.
Of happiness in a tortilla.
Oh my god.
Wow. The juiciest. Like you can feel the stringiness of the marlin, the gooey ooziness of the cheese,
The smoke.
the smoke,
Massive crunch on the outside.
the crunch and char.
Oh yeah, in Mexican food, especially northern Mexican food, smoke is an enormous thing that we care about. Like seriously, like smoke is one of those things that's like you cannot have tacos al carbon, you cannot have, you know, carne asada, you cannot have without this smoke. Like it's just
Plus the juiciness, plus all those different salsas, from the creamy to the spicy to the cilantro to the crunch of the cabbage. And that habanero salsa is just, it's bumping with flavor, bumping with heat, with fruitiness. I love habanero. I'm gonna add on a whole
is
scoop
bumping.
to my next bite there. It's something truly extraordinary.
Tortilla, stuffing, toppings, sauce. The 4 foundations of taco, they're all here.
Groundbreaking. A beautiful, beautiful van. An amazing, amazing ladies.
Thank you.
oh my gosh, like the little apron that she's wearing. I have actually, well, I don't well, I got it for my mom technically, but like and it's really cute, but it's like that. I guess I'm including myself because I sometimes use it, but it's like that, but it has a little like Frida Kahlo design in the front.
Leticia and
Leticia, Mirta.
Mirta.
Yeah.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
A ustedes.
Gracias.
Bye.
Wow. My mouth is just rejoicing. Rejoicing, and the flavors are just lingering.
Mirta Rodriguez, she's a star.
Legend, yeah.
Legend.
She's a star. On the way out, I could not resist having one more.
They must be pretty good. I mean, just saying, like, if the person is like, it's so good, I had to order another one as we were leaving. I don't know. That's just.
I gotta take this.
Okay, now I'm getting hungry. Oh my god. I feel like people are just like, Shakespeare, you're just talking about food and just making everybody hungry. On one hand, yes, but also I'm hungry and snacks are good, you know.
Fun to go. We are moving on to the next place. I'm bringing this in the car.
And like I said, when we finally get to, I don't know, let's just say partner. I doubt we will ever get there. Who knows? But let's say we did. Then when we have Shakespeare Con, we will have a carne asada. So
Mariscos Ruben, Tijuana.
or we could just go to Tijuana and go wherever this dude goes.
I will never forget the name Texcoco, especially famous for barbacoa, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so this place serves barbacoa, lamb.
Off topic, but I really want to try birria or flautas. Ooh. Oh gosh. It's funny because I was going to make some flautas yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to. But birria, so the thing about birria is the decision that has to be made is whether you're going to make it with beef or with goat, because those are the two like traditional ways of making it. And some people will see the goat one as being more traditional, but actually the beef one is also very old as well. And it's all about the spices. Like you're just like cooking it slow in those spices, right? It's like, because you really want every bite to have that full flavor. And that's why it's very moist as a food, right? I know some people, that used to be a meme, right? If people are not liking that word. But like, that's why you get the consomme, right? Like the taco place that's by close to me, when you order tacos de birria, then you can order the consomme. And well, technically you could order it even if you don't get tacos de birria, but it's like, you know, but it's like I think it's like $1 extra or something like that, or maybe it's 75 cents, but it's like they give you the consomme and you dip it in there because you want that flavor, because it's essentially like dripping into a pot, right? Or, you know, but I can't have beef. Yeah, well, no, I'm just giving an example, like, because like for me, like my family tends to use beef because we're Jewish, right? So, but goat is something that's used, if anything, like most of the places I've gone to usually have goat. But like for me, my family, we always had to use beef. Not that Jewish people can't have goat technically, but my family just always preferred beef. So, so there's that. But yeah, definitely you can do the goat one, and that one again, it's what you want to make sure is that place is from Jalisco. If they're from Jalisco, right, Guadalajara, Jalisco, right, I'll even type it in chat. Like, that is the state, right? That is the part of Mexico that is like, that's where birria is from. Like that's the like region where it's from. And so you'll get some variations, but yeah, like the typical goat one is probably a really good one. Again, it's all in the spices. It's all in the spices. So flautas, that is like, they're deep fried tacos, right? And usually, well, depends, because some people make them rolled. Those typically, sometimes people call those flautas. For my family, we would have them like still in the shape of a folded over tortilla. And for those, sometimes you can get like potato, right? Like when I was vegan, I would usually make potato ones or bean ones in essence, right? Or the ones with like the zucchini flowers, right? I would make it with that. But you can make that. Typically the ones that people sell are with chicken. And so that is, they're deep fried. And so you want to make sure that, if you have certain dietary restrictions, whether they cooked it in oil or in lard, right? Because then, like for me, my family being Jewish, we would usually do it in oil. And so because of that, there is that issue as well. But it's all about like putting in the right ingredients into it, like the fresh ingredients that you get to decide. So I usually tell people to put salsa first and then vegetables. That's in my opinion. People can change it up however they want, but like people put sour cream, but Mexican sour cream, which is more liquidy. I always say like put that stuff first and then put the vegetables on. That's my opinion. So, and if you're in LA, you could go to a place like El Gallo Giro, right? That place sells really good flautas.
Barbecue, lamb
Barbecue. Awesome.
Paco's a master. He has places here. This is the original.
Yeah.
San Diego and Los Angeles. But this is the temple.
This is actually Paco's place here.
Order matters insofar as like when you're biting into it, right? Like if the salsa is on the top, then sometimes a lot of the stuff will fall out, right? Like when you're biting into it, because it'll crack and as you're like biting into it. So I tend to put the stuff on the whatever like the filling is, right? Like the protein or the potato. So then that way I make sure that has it. Yeah, like that's just me, because I'm very I'm very Mexican now. Sounds delicious. Yeah, it's very, very good. I mean, I've had like all kinds of stuff, but like for example, like pozole is another dish that is usually made with pork. My family makes it with chicken. So
awesome, and immediately step in here, you can smell the lamb, that meatiness. Oh, and something's looking back at me right now.
Is that the with maguey leaves?
Okay, maguey leaves. It's literally like melting meat, like melting lamb, and those bones, they just literally they scoot out. Like you could just hold the bone, and it just falls right out of.
So with barbacoa, right? It's the name of it is part of the cognate original of the word barbecue, right? Because barbacoa, because barbecue is not grilling, right? Barbecue is pozole, the stew. Yeah, it's one of the stews. Yeah, it's the one with hominy, right? With like maize, the big pieces of maize in it, and pieces of meat. My family's always had to make it with chicken, right? Because it's usually made with pork. And so with barbacoa, right, it's the way how it's cooked is they dig a huge like hole in the ground, right? And then they put all these rocks and, stuff that to get to set it, on fire, but especially for the rocks to get, red hot essentially. Then they put a huge like a big stock pot underneath, where then they put the meat, which is wrapped in maguey leaves, right? Which is the plant that makes tequila and mezcal and all that stuff. And so you wrap it around, and so then the drippings, right? The drippings of the cooking food go down into that stock pot as it's cooking slowly, very slowly underneath the ground, right? Because then you put like something on top and then you cover it up. Some people even make like specific. They almost look like what are they called? The ovens, the oven wells in the subcontinent, where they will make bread, where they're kind of like almost look like concrete, and people put stuff inside. Gosh, why am I forgetting their name right now? But it's that they will make something essentially like that. But it's so then that way they don't have to use dirt, right? Because, but like that's how you make it. It's like slowly cooked over hours and hours and hours and hours. Like usually it's like overnight too. Like you're just leaving it there. Tandoori, yeah, like a tandoori, like the ones that are like built into like a space in the floor, right? And they kind of like pop out a little bit. It kind of looks like that. Like if we were to watch the episode where he goes to Texcoco, which this restaurant is called. Aquí es Texcoco, because the owners are from that part of Mexico, which is in the central part. They have like you will see them look. They kind of look like tandoori, like tandoor ovens. So because it makes it easier on scale, right, to just put it down there, leave it there. But it's like you have to wake up at 3 a.m. to get this stuff ready. Like it's not like quick.
The meat without even hesitation, without even any effort.
That's the eye waiting for you.
Yeah. He's got his eye on you.
Sliced it open like a coconut.
And yeah, that is something that like in Mexico, I mean, in most cultures of the world, they, that's not seen as strange to eat the head of an animal. But I know I was just thinking like, oh, some people might not find that, appealing. I totally get that. But again, like in context, it's seen as, part of the meal in this case.
Rib?
But it doesn't mean that if you get barbacoa that you're going to get that because,
So make sure that the rib has the skin, and then you can put salsa verde. This is hot.
Okay.
And then the salsa borracha.
Borracha?
Yeah. This is drunken sauce. This is just to add flavor. And then.
So one thing is again, he said, this sauce is for spice, right? Like the green one, and green sauces tend to be spicier, on average, right? But red sauce, but he said this sauce is for the flavor, right? So again, when it comes to salsas, right, like different sauces, some of them are there only to add color or flavor, or right, they are not spicy, right? And you can see this at like certain like like the places where they make burritos, right? Like Cafe Rio, is that what it's called? Where they have a sauce that looks just like that one, the salsa borracha, the drunk sauce, but it has lots of flavor, right? Because it's made with the drippings, etc. But it's not spicy, right? It's there to just add that umami flavor to it, and like a little bit of the smoke of the chili of the chiles, but that's about it. It's not spicy.
A little bit of onion, like everywhere in Mexico. And
one last touch. Just a drop of consomme.
Gracias, Paco. So Paco just made me the perfect barbacoa Texcoco taco. Just a whole rib in a tortilla gift wrapped package. Here we go. Just the fatty gooiness of that.
He really likes like watching him eat. Is like he really enjoys what he's doing. When my wife and I went to Puerto Vallarta, we got that spice warning repeatedly. Oh yeah, that's why, again, like for myself, like when I have friends over or anything, I like say these are actually spicy, and I'm gonna put them here, right? And they're kind of like set apart. But these are the ones that you're fine. Like you should be fine, because I know like some people, especially because I've had friends that think that they can handle more spice, but they don't understand how much spice that salsa has, right? So I'll be like, first try these, like just in case.
That lamb, it's like the perfect ratio of juicy, gooey meat just falling apart in your mouth, on your tongue, with the crunch of the onions and the cilantro, and that mix of salsas. You could literally just you don't even need to chew that meat.
So see how like the Mexican dude that he went there, that's like giving him this tour, he put the salsas first. That's typically what you want to do, right? Some people put the salsa last, and that's fine, but typically you want to put the salsa first and then the stuff that can fall out, because otherwise then the salsa will also fall out, right? And then you have to put more. So again, typically you put salsas on the filling and then put the vegetables. That way you can get a full bite every single time.
It just like presses between your lips and falls apart. Jeffrey's special move that he taught me years ago, and I've never gone back.
At Gilberto's.
At Gilberto's, yep.
Depends on the...
Drench it, rehydrate it. Just an explosion of lamminess that just like overwhelms your, just like fills your mouth with happiness.
Well, Mark, I kept an ear out for this place, and I always had an eye on this dish. It's a no-brainer to give this a try, and I knew you'd want to sink your teeth into it. So, take this lovely, soft cheek. Look how that comes off. It's like, are you kidding me? That's insane. Oh, then we're
yes, it's cabeza. That's right.
We go in for
like Anita, like you know.
tongue.
That's a little cheeky there.
You can play this game. Feel like a brain surgeon. Going into a little bit of the...
Also, if people are not too happy about this, it'll pass in a minute. I promise.
No, right? Look at that. Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah, the brain.
Is that illegal? Someone call the police. Holy crap.
Are they getting the sesos? Yeah, he just said like, oh, I feel like a brain surgeon. Yeah, the sesos.
Mark, I would like to present you around the head in 80 days.
Oh my
Go on and
god.
hammer that.
This truly is a taco de cabeza. All the different textures, all of the different oozinesses.
Yeah, so he got like that dude, heroic Italian, got different parts of la cabeza to put in there, including the sesos, which are right here.
All the brains. So it's creamy, but at the same time mixed with the cheek, which is like silky.
Oh, for the eyeball, we need to take out.
So it is kind of the same area. Well, let me tell you, they're...
Oh, that's the hard part, yeah.
I have really good mix.
Thank you, Paco.
Fucking conservative white men will hate on Mexico all day, but give them a marinated and they're happy as... I mean... I mean, there's always going to be that thing where it's like they love everything Mexican, but they hate the people, right? It's like I will never understand it because it's not meant to be understood. But it's just like, yeah, oh, where's your favorite place? Oh, tacos, tacos La Maria, or tacos El Paisa, or all those places, right? Like, oh, they love the food, they love everything about Mexican culture, and it's sometimes even fetishized, like Mexican women, right? But
I'm gonna scoot the entire eyeball to the front so I get all of the eyeball in one bite. All right, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Me neither. They'll go and drink margaritas and tequila and eat flautas and sopes and shit, and then be like, speak. Oh yeah, which is funny because they enforce that even outside of the country. Like, they're like, can you just speak to me in English? I'm like, bro, you're literally in Mexico City, like the capital of Mexico. Yeah, they'll be in Cancun. Yeah.
It's so gelatinous in like so many different ways. Incredibly soft. It tastes like fat and gelatin. And like melting lamb, like it's also like kind of has a strong lamb taste.
Like, I totally get that. Looking at that, it might be a bit disturbing, and I'm sorry. I saw some people left. I apologize. I understand, but I guess it's kind of hard to like not show what he's talking about as well.
Oh yeah,
we're trying the flan right here. Flan's amazing. Mama's flan right here.
It tastes like eyeball except sweet. It's got a gelatinous taste to it.
It's really good.
It's so custardy. The cheap ones are like, it's like solidified jello, but this is like, it's got the air pocket. Syrup is not too sweet either.
Yeah, so custardy, creamy, not too sweet, and juicy.
I love flan. Like, I like choco flan. Like, I don't know if people know what that is, but it's like chocolate cake with flan on top. And it is so good. Like, when my mom makes it when I go visit her, I'm just like, why do I have to go back?
Deep.
See like the consume, like the small one is like $1.
We got to move on. We're aiming for a very productive food day. Next up, Jeffrey. Oh, are we walking?
I need to like start saying that. Like, today's gonna be a productive food day.
I'm gonna walk. Yeah, I'm gonna walk. We need to walk.
Next up is Xolo.
Xolo.
When we come down here en masse, some people say this is their favorite taco. Other people say Fitos. So when people are voting, it's either Fitos or Xolo.
Oh, another thing too is they don't even go to Taco Alley. Like, they don't, like, these are places, Fitas, not Pito. Anita, what are you trying to say up in here? Like, I'm sure that you can find that more than enough in Tijuana, but Fitas. Doña Fitas.
Bone marrow tacos. Whoa, kidding me?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, fine. For sure. Tacos de birria con tuétano. So tuétano means like, what's it called? Marrow. It's with marrow. Pues tú ya sabes, obviamente puedes encontrar lo que necesitas y lo que quieres. Tuétano. That means like bone marrow. Patitas de res, like literally little beef legs, and chilaquiles. So like that's what I was saying. Like, when you get birria, it's very like liquidy. They mean like this, like. So see how he just. Yeah, with the marrow. Yeah, like that's a big thing in Tijuana. Like when they make birria tacos or not. Like also in Guadalajara too. Sounds like an amazing time. Yeah, like so this is like when you were saying you want to try birria. If you want to try it as a taco, it will usually look like that, right? It will be a little bit on the moist side. So.
It's borderline absurd what she does on this cart here. But she takes the tortillas, dips it into the red sauce, which is like a red oil of chilies, dried chilies, and
Chili California and chili
guajillo, and meat juices, right? Another stroke of genius is that she takes the bone marrow out, which looks like it's been boiling in juices, and then she dips it into the birria again, redips it, rehydrates it, then she assembles the entire taco. That's just, it's so big, it's so bulging with both the birria, the cow meat, and the bone marrow. That
It's so big, it's so bulging.
it doesn't even fold like a regular taco. She has to make it cone shaped. It's like a snow cone.
And yes, if you'd like to help me out and support me in any way, of course, for me to keep streaming, you can always do so by going to my Linktree. I have places you can directly help me there. You can also become a subscriber if you so would like to. It's only $4.99. $4.99 if you do it on PC, $5.99 if you do it on mobile. And also, you can also help my research by sponsoring a book on Throne. So anyway, back to the content.
Are we going in?
We're going in. That's just, it's dripping. Why is she holding more things? Yes!
Okay, you know the food is good if like grown-ass men are literally like playing with their food, like speaking to it. I don't know. Or $4.99 on mobile if you have the desktop site button on your browser. Thank you so much for that. That's a good point. Thank you, Anita.
Yeah, thank you. Where do we start?
Look at how happy that Trump supporter is eating Mexican food. You know it's good. Wait, is this dude a Trump supporter? This dude or this dude? Which guy? Like, I don't know. My dad was a big fan of marrow. I could never deal with the texture. I get that. Like, I get that it's something that, like, yeah, like, you're just making jokes. Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you had, like, some foreknowledge of something. I remember the first time I watched this, because this is, like, a couple of years old, that one of my friends that I watched this with really, really, like, I guess had a crush on this dude, which is, like, I don't think he shows up on anything ever again. Not that I remember anyway, but I just remember that it's like, oh, this guy, I'm just like, yeah, the dude that looks like the most white out of all of them. Like, you know, I've seen Mexican people that look like Mark and this dude, but this anyway.
Explosion. That might be the richest taco.
But yeah, like, I totally get the whole texture thing, like, especially because in Mexican food you have such a huge variety of textures that sometimes people like to put together. And well, I mean, that's a common in all different cuisines, right? But like, this is an example, I guess, that comes to mind.
On earth, though.
Explosion.
That makes melted butter feel hard to chew. It literally slides down.
Hello.
That is.
Hello. How are you today?
It literally slides down.
Wow. You cannot even believe the texture and richness of that.
Hit me, brother.
Oh, and there's habaneros too.
Oh, can you eat that whole? Eat that whole.
Yes. Oh, wait. If things could not get better, she handed us roasted whole habaneros that we need to just put on.
Again, one thing about Mexican food for sure is that we love smoke. Like, roasting is like always gonna happen.
Our next bite.
That's a one-biter.
That's a one-biter.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To my next of kin, you can have all my CDs.
One-biter habanero, yes.
Bye-bye.
I think he just signed up for the tour. I don't even think he's like...
The calm before the storm.
Yeah. Oh, just a little bit spicy at first.
Here it comes, though.
The flavor is incredible. It's like, wow.
It's funny because just like 30 seconds ago, this dude said, eat that whole. I'm just like...
Anyway. So good. That extra heat, that roastedness. That's just like a perfect like heat to combine with all the juices and all the meats. Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna try the next salsa.
Yeah, it's creeping up.
Uh-huh.
It's on a slow build.
It's building in the back of my throat. Final bite. Really, that's one of the best tacos I've ever had in my life. Definitely.
Wow. That's one of the best tacos he's ever had in his life. I mean, because he's been all over the world and everything, and even been to Mexico, like, you know, central Mexico and etc. To hear that is actually like a really high rating, I would say.
One of the richest.
And my favorite like seafood place, like Mariscos place, is actually not that far from here, sort of, but it's more on Pontiente, like Aguascalientes, going that way. But yeah.
Oiliest, greasiest, most spectacularly flavorful tacos I've ever had. Wow, that was insanely tasty.
E.T. Bone Home. It's for you, Mark.
Oh my gosh.
We're only at like the fourth. Is this the fourth? Stop. And we're already just like laughing at everything. You can do that stage. We've already and we've already reached that stage.
Oh God.
Look how deep that is.
Oh.
Here, who wants a spoon? Before it falls out.
Yes.
Oh, I'm drowning. I'm drowning in bone marrow.
And look at that. Look at how much they cost. 25 pesos. That's like $1.
Fine.
Call the Coast Guard. Shovel that into your face. You know how to swim?
You do need to know how to swim to eat this.
You can eat that with a straw.
Yeah. Oh yeah, your steak.
20. It's about like 20 something pesos to $1.
What, they threw it on the steak?
Yeah. It's like a steak. The bone marrow on top. It's like cheese. There's chunks of cheese. There's like blocks of cheese in there. And the bone marrow here.
Oh, is it that low again? Okay. Yeah, like the last time I was in Mexico, it was like 23 to $1.
Oh, it's a cheese. That's That's the bad one. Here. Oh, you gotta use your thumb on top. There you go. Nice.
Now, when I lived in Mexico, it was $1 was 10 pesos. So like the 10 peso coin, I was like, that's $1. That's how. So when the inflation went up, I guess.
You know what would be good? Higher block of cheese. Yeah, and the nachos is just like, it's just like every.
Oh yeah, these onions right here, I like it. Like if they're on food, I could never eat them personally on their own, but when they're on food, they are so good. Beware of the onions. Beware the onions. Why?
Thing on a pile.
Beware the purple onions. Why? What? But why though?
Pile of fried tortilla chips. There's a whole steak in the middle of that nachos.
Because sometimes they're not just pickled. Because they're pickled and also have chile. They're put in chile as well, or? Because I think that one had pieces of habanero in it.
Oh, the big bite. Thank you.
Yes, they are spicy as fuck. Yes, that is very true. That is the technical term, yeah. Well, again, that's why I say, like, I wouldn't eat them just by themselves, right? Like, there are some people where they would just put that, like, on a tortilla chip and, like, eat it. Me, if it's, like, if there's some, like, in something.
Wow. What's amazing about that is the cheese, the meat, everything mixed, and I love those pickled onions.
You have one more.
I was going to end there, but Jeffrey said I could not leave without just trying. This is the classic. This is the normal. This is.
So yeah, this is typically like when you get tacos de birria, this is what you're gonna get. Like aguacate plus meat. Oh really? Oh, you can't eat aguacate? Oh. I mean, like, you know, it's not that necessary, right? I mean, like, unless you're gonna eat like marisco, you know, like cóctel de camarón or something.
Classic Tijuana red taco. It's just, it's so...
Yes, Tijuana's known for the red tacos. Hence, when I said earlier that, like, I like the red al pastor tacos, right? In Tijuana, they make them red. red is definitely. Oh, and aguachiles, yeah, especially.
Wet, it's so juicy. She rehydrates it like 3 or 4 times throughout the process. Micah, did you like the tacos? And just her move, I mean the number one move I think is dipping the tortilla into the red sauce. You can just feel like the oil just dripping out and the juices just accumulating in your palm.
Oh, yes. We might, yeah, it's red, yeah. Really red, right? And it's like, and then they have that like orange salsa, and then the like aguacate thing. I mean the green one, right? That it's like a sauce, not like just a puro aguacate.
Oh wow. It's just like,
yeah, the crema, yeah.
It's straight magical. It's not only a red taco, but
it's funny, like I'm noticing that like slowly, yeah, crema de aguacate, yes, yeah, you know. Like it's like I like how I'm slowly losing people viewing this. The more and more food we see, like
it's a wet taco and it's a crunchy taco.
Like, I didn't sign up to look at this here Mexican food.
Oozes with meat and oil. A little bit of the salsa for this bite. Lime.
Okay. Oh, and you always gotta put lime on your tacos, okay? And like when Mexican people say limon, we mean limes, okay?
Okay, that might be the perfect bite. Muchas gracias. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Bye. Bye bye. Okay. Listo.
El Gallito is calling.
Is that the next place?
Tacos adobado.
Transcendent. It was beyond words. The juicy crispiness. Like, how do you even get something? How's it even possible to get something that crunchy and that juicy all at the same time in your mouth?
You know, putting things that are juicy and in your mouth, you know.
Got out of the van in slow motion. Everyone's moving slower by now. And
I mean,
just the problem, and also the best thing about Tijuana is that like everything is in like a 2 or 3 kilometer radius, so it just...
Yeah, that's one thing I miss about Tijuana is that everything was so close by. Like that's why I'm saying like I know the city, like the main part of the city by heart. Like I know where the bookstore is. I know where the mall is. I know where to find like, oh my gosh, Anita, like I've been meaning to go, like honestly, because I just like need to go because just reasons, you know? Like one thing is just I just haven't really had free time lately. Sadly, especially because I'm working, but you know, it's not the U.S. Oh yeah, it's not the U.S. That's for sure. And like you can visit so many different places, and there's so much to do.
It takes like minutes to get to the next place, which is both a good
Tacos El Gallito. Oh my gosh, yeah, I know this place.
Good and a challenging thing.
See, look, like this is what I mean where like we like red tacos. Like in Tijuana, this is how we do al pastor. Yeah, they can do different meats al carbon for sure.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I've been waiting for this a long time.
Awesome, thank you.
Oh my god, he seems super familiar, Adrian Mejia. Like, his face seems familiar to me. I don't know.
He's super fun.
So cool to meet you. Are you from Tijuana?
Yeah, I'm from TJ. We call it adobada right here in TJ.
Adobada, okay. Okay, but it's on the trompo.
Yeah,
adobada is on the trompo, okay. Which is the spit, which is the shawarma style upright spit. It's just like...
Yeah, so the way how this particular food sort of came to be was because immigrants from the Ottoman Empire, particularly Christian immigrants, right? So from Lebanon, from Turkey, from Syria, like there's a very large Lebanese Mexican community in Mexico, is that they brought essentially shawarma, right, to Mexico. And one of the things that sort of like changed is that because they still have tacos árabes, right? Literally Arab tacos. But that's more in like Puebla, like which is a city just outside of Mexico City. And you also see it in Mexico City too. And those are like the old-fashioned ones, right? Then they have the tradicionales, which is what they call them. Yeah, tacos árabes. Yeah, because it was Lebanese, it was like Arab Christians that moved to, like Palestinians also moved to Mexico during this time as well. But this was like late 19th century, early 20th century. They make them with beef, lamb, Euro meat. Well, no, it's like it's shawarma. It's not the. They use a tortilla. Like at first they made them, like when they first brought over the concept, right? They would make it like back in the Ottoman Empire. So they had bread. They had like, but then they changed it from lamb over to pork. Right, because that's typically how al pastor is made, with pork, right? And like in the Middle East, pork is very difficult to have. One, because religious reasons, right, cultural reasons, but also like added on top of that, environment-wise, it doesn't like pigs are really hard to raise in the environments like that. So then they made the tacos árabes. Yeah, Muslims don't eat pork, Jews don't eat pork. Right, exactly. But even like but also like pork was not available as well, And so when the people came to Puebla and Mexico City, they began to do with like lamb, etc. But then it switched over to using pork. And this is when you start to get tacos árabes, right? Which they kind of look like they kind of fold them in a little way that's reminiscent of like sort of like pita, but it's not, because it's still with a tortilla. But then it kept evolving, right? And then the big divide, quote unquote, is in Mexico City, it doesn't look red. It's usually brown because of the spices that they use, right? Because each layer of meat has to be cut out. It's thin, right? And then they have to marinate it in all of these different spices and then put it on the spit for it to cook. The difference is that in Tijuana, the preference for using not just the like aromatic spices and other stuff like that, but also using spices that add color is another part of that. So like the flavor is different. And I personally like that because it's what I grew up with, right?
It's just like juicing meats, vertical meat.
Yeah, it's pork with spices and chili and lots of fat. Awesome. Lots of goodness. That's the street food spirit.
Fat and goodness.
Now that he said that, now I'm like, I think I know that dude, but
they say that the original taco in the beginning of time originated in Mexico, in Puebla. They say they came over from Lebanon with the spits, and there's a place called the original Tacos Árabes is what they were called. Then it migrated to Mexico City, and therefore it became Tacos al Pastor. So the famous al pastor, also on the trompo, is Mexico City. But you come here to TJ, and you get as we heard, taco adobada, and you come to.
Yeah, so that's why like al pastor and adobada are two, like they're interchangeable often, right? But the ones in like I said, in Mexico City don't tend to be red. In Tijuana, they tend to be red.
El Gallito, if you want the best in the world, and this is it right here. And look at that baby, it's a thing of beauty.
He said 100 kilos of pork, marinated adobada, just slow roasting. You can see just the juices just coming out of every layer of pork. A new Spanish word I learned, doradito?
Doradito.
Doradito.
It means like get some fat and some high heat, so you get like crispy.
The way they just slap that crema aguacate on there,
Doradito.
Crispy from the fat.
The tortilla
from the fat.
Yeah.
So that's the move that you call when you dip the tortilla into the oil juice, the fat, to make it crispy.
Yeah.
Doradito. Doradito.
Cinnamon, clove, California chili, ancho chili, salt, pepper,
like ancho or ancho chili is used to make it red. Like that's what you use those for. They're not spicy. They just add the color.
Chicken stock and some other spices, secret spices.
I mean, I see it, but Oh my god.
There's no better way to eat a taco than standing. Number one, standing, and number two, standing in the same place where they make your tacos. I'm just gonna stand right here. It's just blooming. Thank you for holding the plate.
Well, one thing I will say is that this one, it's much more like thicker than the one that the place I go to in Tijuana. It's more like crema. Like, it's not like thick like this. So, I don't know.
That meat is almost fruity. It's so flavorful.
You're getting a little warm here. Getting a little hot under the collar over here. And don't worry, Chad, as much as I've seen the fluctuations of viewers, we will move on to some other content in just a bit. I just really want to talk about Tijuana.
There's the clove flavor, and then that smokiness, the crunchy bits. It's so juicy, fatty. And then you've just got that salsa.
Juicy fatty. That sounds like a Grindr screen name. Anyway.
The creamy guacamole, the crunch of the onions. How cool. Unbelievable. The crunchy, smoky, juicy, fatty meat. It's been way too long since I've been to Mexico.
TJ Love Techno. Oh, yes, yes. And you know where's like a cool place to hang out if you're like into that in Tijuana though? Like where people that go to those, like sometimes they'll go there to pregame and then they'll come like end up is La Mezcalera. Like, I'm not even joking. You can do the mezcal flights and you can get the pure ones, which means that they're clear, or the ones that are, they call them mixtos, and they're not transparent. But they're all really, really good. And you can get messed up. I'll just put it like that. Like in terms of like the alcohol. Dos Gusanos? No. I don't know. It's like they make cocktails and other stuff. Cause it's more like for a younger crowd, so it's not the like mezcal flights. That sounds dangerous. I can show the mezcalera on here in a bit, cause I'm not, you know. And hey, if La Mezcalera, if you would like to sponsor me, like, you know, always glad to take a sponsorship. There are places that do that here in A. Oh, I know that. I'm just saying that, like, in relation to the raves, a lot of the people that go to raves, you know. Yes, there is that Mezcalero place on Broadway. Yes. In fact, at first, I was going to be like, well, there's places here, right, that do that. But I'm just saying, like, in Tijuana, vis-a-vis the rave scene, is that, like, that tends to be a place where, like, a much younger crowd hangs out at. Because mezcal, for a long time, was associated with, like, you know, older men, right? So...
With jack cheese, Monterey Jack, with a lot of meat on top. It's a classic taco right here in Taco Center.
Yeah, I bartended a party within the last 2 years where I served so much mezcal. Yeah, like growing up, like mezcal was something that, like, oh, people in, like, you know, the like pulque cantinas, right? That like it was still seen in that light. And then now that I'm older, it's like all these young people drink it, and it's kind of like, oh, you know.
The signature.
That's insane.
Because for a long time in Tijuana, people kind of wanted to like not drink Mexican stuff in a weird way. Even though it's like very inexpensive to get that stuff in Tijuana. Like like national alcohol and other things, right, means that it's very... Oh, Las Perlas de... Isn't it like Las Perlas de Acapulco, or what's the other one? It might be Las Perlas. Or is it, you know, across from Kohl's? Yeah, I mean, I would have to look it up, but I know which one you're talking about. And I know because I think it used to go by another name, something Acapulco, which is why like Las Perlas rings a bell.
I mean, you're not gonna.
I mean, maybe.
I find this taco anywhere else in Mexico.
Cheese. Then with all the salsas. Then with calamata. Oh. It's massive.
It has got so much going on. It's gourmet in a way. I know it's all over my face and dripping down my shirt, but this is a gourmet creation.
So I'm looking up here, flautas de pollo 85, and that's for an order of them, so that's multiple. That's not that bad.
Pepper and the cheese. You cannot even explain this in words. Crunchy out of bottom meat, just like the meat is the topping.
Sorry, you gotta have this with double crunch. Double crunch. This is gonna be totally insane.
Look how oily that is.
Like if people have ever had like rib tips, it's not exactly like that, but it's like if you've had that, it wouldn't be too dissimilar.
In your hand. It's actually shimmering. It's shining.
And you see all the rábanos and the cebollitas, like I'm currently growing cebollitas because like legit, like when I have carne asada or when I have carne asadas, I run out of onions. Like legit, like people just want to eat like las cebollitas.
Wow. Oh, the crunch. I've always been a fan of crunchy meat.
Oh yeah, so right here you have tacos de tripas and other stuff. And this is called tacos de suadero because it's like in this thing. It's called a suadero. When I was growing up, my favorite tacos were tacos de tripa. Like I'm not even joking. Like they were everything, flavor wise. Well, like you know, at a certain point in my childhood, it was like. I tried them and I was like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever.
One final bite here is the suadero, which is beef, which is braised in pork fat.
Yeah, that's right, pork fat. And it's been marinated like for about 5 or 6 hours in lime.
And that was always the issue, is that a lot of the stuff is beef, but some places do not. Usually it's done with lard. That's the problem. That was always the issue. So like if we did it at like at places that were more like other Mexican Jewish families, they usually would do it with like essentially Crisco, but obviously the flavor is slightly different.
Oh wow, so flavorful.
Enjoy your
That was amazing.
meal.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
Super
to meet you
fun,
also.
really. I'm super
Thank
fun.
you so much.
Good work.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so now we've gone through all of that. This is pretty much done. So hello chat. I just want to say again, thank you for those of you that have stayed on. I know perhaps maybe some people were like, oh, you know, we're talking just about food. Yeah, but you know, like for me, the way how I feel is, like this is, I mean, again, Tijuana is a hometown for me, right? It's like, I know how to get around with it from memory, right? Like and so, I mean, it's changed a lot. Like, and I noticed that the last time I went back, which was like a year ago, but at the same time, it's like so much of it has not changed, right? Like, and so, you know, that's why like watching this stuff sometimes actually kind of gives me some form of nostalgia, I guess, to some extent anyway. But okay, we are going to watch. Now we're going to transition over to to a kind of a different segment, talking about 2024.
A global battle of political systems is underway. Liberal democracy once seemed unstoppable.
Across Europe, this wall will fall, for it cannot withstand faith. It cannot withstand truth.
But now authoritarianism is on the rise.
I will say one thing, as I hate that authoritarianism is such a, like, it literally means anything and everything, right? That's one thing that I never quite liked about people that use that term as such, right? Like, what do you mean by authoritarian? Because the bourgeois liberal democracies are authoritarian in nature as well, but there is this like added element that people want to use, but then it also makes it become somewhat devoid of meaning. So, you know.
And even in places where people choose their leaders through the hard-won right to vote, many seem drawn toward candidates with dubious democratic credentials.
The fact that they're saying dubious democratic credentials with AMLO, who again is not a leftist by any stretch of the imagination, but has actually done, you know, some material things like raise the minimum wage by 20% twice, which is never, like it went up 40%, right, in 2 years. That's like, I would have never have expected that ever just to have happened. You know, and obviously that comes with the price of the fact that he also created a new armed force, right? That's, you know, so.
You're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said no, other than day one.
L'immigration doit cesser. In 2024, democracy will be tested like never before.
Pretty much half of the population of the world is voting in one form of election or another this year.
It's the biggest electoral exercise in history.
Like, as soon as I see el voto es libre y secreto, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Mexico. Like, the idea of us in Mexico, of your vote being secret and you not having to say anything about who you're voting for, is why a lot of people that I know that are Mexican just say like, oh, you know, I don't talk about politics, especially like party politics, but even more generally, because of this, like, well, it's private anyway, right? Like the privacy aspect is something that, again, was fought for, right, when at a time when we had a dictatorship, etc. And so the ability to have, right, privacy when it comes to one's electoral choice is still seen as a very important value. So,
with pivotal votes in major powers.
Elections in India span about 4 weeks roughly because the country is so huge.
We have 450 million people, Europeans, in 27 countries that every 5 years elect members of the European Parliament.
2024 is going to be our 30th anniversary of obtaining democracy in South Africa.
This election has consequences for all of Latin America.
If Donald Trump takes over again, it's very likely that he will destroy the United States as we know it.
So will this be the year democracy gets a vote of confidence?
See, like, this is the thing, right? It's like people say that, but they're still letting him run. You know what I mean? It's like, then it shouldn't be incumbent upon the voters to not choose him, right? Like, then that shouldn't be a choice. If he's going to ruin whatever, why is he even allowed on the ballot, right? Like, obviously, if liberal democracy functioned in a way that did care about the citizens and did care about its, you know, institutions, then it would just not let him run, right? Just say, no, you did the wrong thing, you're done, right? But no, instead it's like, well, he has to run because, you know, so.
Confidence, or eats itself alive.
I'm DW correspondent Rosie Burchard. I'm going to take you from here in Brussels on a world tour of some of this year's most consequential elections to find out.
I'll be speaking to DW experts on 5 continents to bring you up to speed on this bumper electoral year, where the fate of democracy itself seems to hang in the balance. People head to the polls this year in dozens of countries. We'll be focusing on some of the biggest and most important in Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Americas. Not all places where people can vote are necessarily democracies, where all the state's power is rooted in the people. In systems classed as most democratic, power is deliberately shared between different parts of the state. Those different parts have the capacity and the duty to check each other to make sure everyone keeps to the rules. Courts to protect all individuals' rights and make sure the state acts within the law. An opposition free to scrutinise and challenge government policies. Journalists free to investigate and report without fear. And citizens free to protest, gather and voice dissent. This makes real democracy more than an electoral popularity contest. None of the democracies we'll look at fulfill all these conditions perfectly, but the more those institutions are eroded, the less power belongs to the people, and the closer a state moves to autocracy. 2024's election bonanza kicked off in January in Taiwan, the self-ruled territory which China sees as its own.
China wants to take control of Taiwan. It says that Taiwan is part of China, its government is not legitimate. And that becomes essentially a kind of a battle of stamina, a battle of wills, like who can hold on the longest. I'm Richard Walker, I'm DW's Chief International Editor. I've been covering a lot of the big geopolitical questions that we're facing now. You know, the contest between China and the United States, the place that India has in the role, where Russia fits in the mix.
Taiwanese voters chose a president, William Lai, from the party seen as most anti-Chinese. But this time the party held onto power by a narrower margin.
So a bit of a split result. On the one hand, continuity of a kind of robust line towards China. On the other hand, a significant chunk, a majority of the electorate saying it's time to try to get on better with the Chinese.
So Richard, what did this election tell us about the health of Taiwanese democracy?
It's a remarkable sign of the resilience of this system that it's kept going under all of that enormous Chinese pressure, but they still go about these elections in a clean and fair way. So I think that is also, you know, one of the ways in which Taiwan is just a sort of a living rebuke to the Chinese system. The Chinese say, oh, you know, democracy is a Western invention. Well, this is very much not a Western place, and democracy is absolutely alive and kicking here.
But the story is not so simple elsewhere in Asia, which is home to the world's biggest democracy.
I think this next election will be extremely important for the future of India, because we are hearing a lot about democratic norms being undermined. We are seeing minorities under threat. I'm Amrita Chima, and I was born and brought up in India. A few years ago, Deutsche Welle asked me to set up the bureau in Delhi and head this bureau, and that's what I'm doing. For the last few years, I'm heading DW's bureau in Delhi.
India's parliamentary elections are set to take place throughout April and May. It takes that long because it's a huge undertaking.
And it's baffling from anyone from the outside to see how that works. They have to ensure that everybody has the ability to cast their ballot. And that means often, and they're, going to remote places. They send ballot boxes on camels in remote areas of the desert. They use mules and donkeys and take them into the Himalayas and remote hamlets. So Indians actually also love voting.
For the past decade, this man has led the country, Narendra Modi. And this year he's expected to...
Wow, it's kind of crazy that it actually has been like a decade that he's been in power, right? Because I feel that in many ways, the attention that's been given to him is very recent, at least in the West, right? And so, I don't know. That's one of those things too, where a lot of these... there was a mosque that was demolished, I believe in the 90s, on this idea that there had been a temple to the god Ram there. And so, although there was no evidence that that was the case, but now they've built a Hindu temple to the god Ram there on top of the ruins of a mosque that was wrongfully demolished, right, under false pretenses.
To win an unprecedented third
term. Or rather, based on just lies, right?
Everybody thinks that the party of the incumbent Prime Minister Narendra Modi will win, and that party is the Bharatiya Janata Party, or the BJP. And this is due to a combination of factors. The opposition is hugely fragmented.
There are more than 2,000 political parties in India, yet Modi seems to have won the hearts and minds.
See, this is the thing, and I know some people might disagree on this, but the idea that all we need is another political party doesn't follow, because we have examples like India, like other places, where it doesn't really matter if you have another party. It's more the ability to raise class consciousness, to have and build solidarity between different marginalized peoples, etc. Like a party apparatus under bourgeois democracy is never going to give us the result that socialists want.
Of millions.
And I think one of the biggest things that makes him very appealing is because India has a young population, he taps into this aspirational class of young Indians. There are lots of other areas where the BJP has delivered big time in terms of infrastructure. Even now, because this is an election year, I mean...
You know what's like a very typical, and people that are economists in chat, you know, or if you know economic theory, because I've studied it as well, like for my master's, but something that I kind of like have mulled over and read a lot about is that like the thing you do when there's a recession is you build infrastructure, right? Because that creates jobs, but also it creates, right, the infrastructure, right? I know I'm just using infrastructure twice, so that then, right, once the economy betters over time, then a lot of the issues that sort of were prevalent prior to the recession are now ameliorated. And so now you have more movement of goods and services and workers, etc. And like that is the time to do that type of spending. The United States has done the exact opposite of that. Like that is standard, you know, orthodox economics, right? Like economic policy. China's a very good example of this. When there was the global, you know, the Great Recession, what did China do? It invested heavily into transportation, right? It built highways, it built railways, it built all of these different infrastructural things so that then once the economy was better, oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Cosmopolitics. Thank you so much for the follow.
Every day, there's a new scheme.
In recent years, analysts have begun raising questions about what they call Modi's majoritarian style of governance.
What they mean is pandering to the aspirations of the majority community. Now that is the Hindu community in India. The Hindus.
And you see, like this aspect too, in particular when it comes to India, is something that has been at the heart of even the discussions for independence, right? Which then led to, well, the British then dividing up the land of what we now call India, right? Or Hindustan in the colonial context. So let me quickly transition. Let me quickly transition here. So like this entire space here, right? This is the subcontinent. Right here, this map is slightly old enough to where it does show like French colonies, and it does show India, right? And it encompassing everything what is now Pakistan, right? With the Durand line dividing Afghanistan with Pakistan, and then you have what we now call India, right? The Republic of India, and then you have Bangladesh, and so with Bangladesh, you essentially have, again, the lines drawn around it were done so to create majoritarian areas for a specific religious group, right? So the people are, ostensibly speaking, all, you know, one people, or at least perhaps that's technically incorrect. They are a host of different nations that are connected together through culture, language, etc., and history, right? But to divide it along religious lines, right, was something that the British did, so they say, to make sure that there was not conflict. However, it created conflict in itself, because the issue was that could living in a secular country, such as a united India, with a Hindu majority, what would that mean for the Muslim minority? And so that is where some of the ideas from the Muslim League, as I believe they were called, right, that wanted a separate Pakistan, Because at one point there was West Pakistan, which is now just Pakistan, and Bangladesh, which was then East Pakistan. And so what you have is also like same thing with like Bengali people, right? Like Bengali people that live again here in Bengal, right? You have West Bengal and East Bengal, right? But it also goes, technically the peoples also go into like Sikkim and, you know, other places as well. But the point being that by dividing it along religious lines, right, you have this cultural continuum, right, where they speak the same language, the cuisine is similar, etc., etc. The cultures as similar as could be, but just on a religious difference, there now is a border between them. And another aspect of this too is with the Sikhs, right, or Sikhs technically. That's how you have to pronounce it. It's Sikhs, and that is that they also were not considered when they split up Punjab, right? Because that was the only region where they held a majority of the population. And out of all of India's population, again, the united India of the colony, they made up 2% of that population. But again, in Punjab, they made up a majority. So then this is why you have movements like, you know, how Canada recently accused India of like, you know, calling in a hit for, you know, someone that was trying to bring about the idea of Khalistan, right? And that is essentially a country that is for Sikhs only, right? Of you know, like a Sikh country for the Sikh people. And so Sikhi. And so that is one of the big aspects that you get here is, again, once you start creating these divisions based on, you know, these ideas that they are different in some immutable way, and you cannot have them living together in a secular country, that is when you begin to have a lot of these, you know, many issues that still arise to this day. Like, for example, and kind of what I'm leading to is like in India, which has a immense Muslim minority. And I don't really like using those terms because, again, it's talking about people as though they're just statistics, right? But it has a historical and, you know, extant Muslim population that is just as Indian as anybody else in India. And yet, again, you have these majoritarian policies put in place that always come at the expense of religious minorities in India. And so that is, and also that's not even, and that's discussing it in just one layer, not even going into like caste, because that's a whole different aspect where it also complicates this. But again, specifically speaking, the religious minorities are the ones that have been calling out the Modi government, particularly because it's part of this Hindu nationalist, right, form of thinking that would essentially see like Hinduism being like, again, this is just speculation to some extent, but it's like the idea that Hinduism could be like the state religion, right? I don't exactly buy into that necessarily. But definitely the preferential and even, you know, deference to Hindu nationalists has meant that a lot of the fears that people had that the British tried to quell, right, that they try to address with partition, are still playing a part now, even in a secular India, right? So again, it's still an immense problem.
An overwhelming majority in India. When India got independence, the constitution they adopted was a secular constitution in which everybody is taken into account, not just the majority community, but the minorities were also protected. Many of the people from the minorities feel that they feel under threat, and particularly those who feel under threat are India's largest minority, and that's the Muslims.
Modi himself denies oppressing minorities.
We are home to all faiths in the world, and we celebrate all of that.
Which, this is really sad because India is perhaps the, you know, some might call it a civilizational space. I don't like to term it like that, but has definitely been the place in the world that has never persecuted the Jewish people, right? Because the idea of people worshiping slightly different than you is completely normal, right? It's part of living in the subcontinent. It's just, you know, but again, that was one of the reasons why a lot of the Jewish community there was so assimilated into Indian culture, right, into the culture around it, was because it was never persecuted the Jewish people and was so pluralistic. So
in India, diversity is a natural way of life.
And though the country's democratic setup should, in theory, protect minority rights,
there is obviously a lot of concern about the major institutions which underpin democracy, like the judiciary, right? Like the election commission, like key bureaucratic positions. All of those, there are a lot of accusations that the BJP has put in people who are close to their way of thinking.
Some in the media claim authorities are trying to intimidate the press.
Every time there's some kind of, they don't like what somebody's written, the law enforcement agencies are sent in to conduct a tax raid, and that is also to silence critics among the media.
But Modi's geopolitical star has been rising in the West, with leaders in Washington, Paris, Berlin, and many other places rolling out the red carpet for him.
And again, this is because of imperialism, right? Like, it's so... Like, again, this is exactly the relation that we have to be cognizant of, right? Like, when you have a comprador bourgeoisie, right, it doesn't mean that they're going to be, like, obviously just on the side of the imperialists, right? Because they are, by definition. But it doesn't mean that they're not going to play up to nationalistic, right, again, reactionary views that in the long run actually give them more power, right? Like, that's part of the thing, right? Is that that's what allows for them to use the state apparatus in a way which benefits, right, imperialism. And so especially because you have, the expansion of the carceral society, the expansion of the, of the transparency society. And by that, I mean, Byung-Chul Han means it in one sense, but it's kind of like the panopticon, right? But how, like, things are panopticons of panopticons, right? Again, with the policing of the other, right? These things all come to the fore, particularly in the imperialized world, especially in the allies that the imperialist powers sort of want to prop up, especially, right? Like, why is it that the pluricultural, the accepting, the toleration of India in its history is not what is being foregrounded to build off of for the future? Instead, it's a pitting together the one community that has a majority against a minority, right, in this way, right, that causes dispossession, that causes destruction. And one way of thinking of this is, again, the way in which imperialist wars are fought. And again, I'm not trying to, like, over abstract what is going on, but rather to say that, like, if people are dispossessed, right, that means that their capital, right, like, again, thinking of it in Marxian terms, are now taken over by the state. Right, they no longer have their homes. They no longer have their, their capital that they might have, and so then that means that they are marginalized even more, and in this case, either, proletarianized, even more so, or peasantized, right, or fall into the lumpen proletariat. So again, it's like it's a way to continue to keep the flow of capital going up. But it comes at the cost of immiserating immense amounts of people. But that's exactly how capitalism and exactly how imperialism works. And in the global south, one way of doing that especially is to go against minority groups, to go against marginalized people, right, to then dispossess, right, remove any ability for recourse or power, so that then the state can assume that. And so the comprador bourgeoisie can, again, give even more to the imperialist powers.
They seem largely unconcerned about allegations of democratic backsliding in India.
They really see India as absolutely crucial counterweight to China. And so that I think Western governments are prepared to give India quite a bit of freedom. I think it would take a lot more for Western governments to really seriously raise very vocal concerns.
Delhi has not.
And again, this goes back to what I was just saying. Like, they don't mind authoritarianism, right? Like, that's why, like, when they say, oh, well, there's authoritarianism here. And the United States didn't mind signing a free trade agreement with a dictatorship in Mexico, right? Like, I remember reading the COPE in the, like, government textbook when I went to high school. Like, oh, well, you know, they have just one party and blah, 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 but, you know, yada, 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 right, about Mexico. And it's like, we had a dictatorship. That's what we had. But because it served the United States in every way, that's the reason why they're seen as like, well, you know, now Mexico can transition to full democracy, where before it was partial democracy, right? So again, it's this, like, the rhetoric that they use about authoritarianism is always used especially against their, you know, fellow imperialist powers, right? That is to say, pardon me, not their fellow, but their enemy imperialist powers like Russia, like China, etc., right? But with, for example, India, where you do have something authoritarian taking place, it is, again, sort of swept under the rug for the same reason that, again, authoritarianism in Latin America was ignored, right, during the, you know, neoliberal expansion of everything, right? Why the dictatorships, like the United States, had no problem installing dictators, right? Had no problem with Pinochet, had no problem with Videla, had no problem with, etc. So that is how we must read these things, right? Like, in terms of imperialism, when they're saying, oh, well, they might give, you know, India some freedom, again, that freedom that they are getting is so that way they can align themselves even more with the capitalists, even more with imperialism, because then it means that now there is no dissent, right? And so that allows for, again, the accumulation of capital, the accumulation of power, and all of that on a much larger scale. So again, that's just something to consider. So I think that for today, we are going to raid Hildy. So everyone, please make sure to get in the machine so we can head on over to Hildy's. Make sure to tell Hildy hello and that I will be there in just a minute.